Good morning, everyone. Nice to see everyone in person and also online. Welcome to the March 26, 2026 Landmark Commission meeting. In compliance with notification requirements of Ohio Open Meeting Law and Section 101.021 of the Codified Ordinances of Cleveland, Ohio, 1976, notice of this meeting has been publicly posted. All boards and commissions under the purview of City Planning Department conducts this meetings based on Robert's Rules of Order. Actions during the meeting will be taken by roll call vote. Recusal from any case due to a conflict of interest should be stated for the record prior to the beginning of the presentation. In order to ensure that every participant in the meeting has the opportunity to be heard, virtual attendees will use the raised hand feature before asking a question or making a comment. The raised hand feature can be found on the participants panel on the desktop and mobile versions and activated by clicking the hand icon. Please wait for the chair or facilitator to recognize you and be sure to select unmute and announce yourself before you speak. When finished speaking, please lower your hand by clicking the raised hand icon again and muting your microphone. Call-in users can unmute by using *6. All meeting activities are being recorded via the WebEx platform. These proceedings are also being live streamed via YouTube. All requests to speak on a particular matter submitted through proper channels have been considered. Proper channels for comments are sending an email to the landmark@clevelandohio.gov email address with a comment or letter, calling and or leaving a message at 216-664-2532, or sending a letter or dropping off comments at City Hall located at 601 Lakeside Avenue, Suite 519. Communication with members of this body must follow proper channels for consideration. Any comments received by the stated deadline are collected by Landmark staff and disseminated to the commission members prior to any scheduled meeting. Mr. Musson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. To go through the meeting rules and procedures, the chair will call each agenda item and then each applicant will be invited to proceed through their presentation. Each presentation should be completed prior to questions and comments from the commission in order to facilitate a smooth presentation. Once the presentation is concluded, the chair will ask Landmark staff to summarize design review committee recommendations and any public comment received. The deadline for public comment is noon on the Tuesday prior to any regularly scheduled Cleveland Landmarks Commission meeting. Any received comments are distributed to commission members prior to the meeting, and staff will also identify any members of the public present and scheduled to speak. Public comment is allowed at the discretion of the chair, and any individual providing public comment is permitted 2 minutes to speak to the agenda item in which they have an interest. The chair will then request a recommendation from staff. The commission will then begin deliberation and project review. Any commission member except the chair may make a motion at any point after an agenda item has been called.
Then we will call the March 26, 2026 Landmark Commission meeting to order. Mr. Musson, please call roll.
Ms. Anderson?
Here.
Mr. Dulick?
Here.
Councilmember Gray?
Here.
Mr. Lozier?
Here.
Director Mersman?
Here.
Ms. Sabin?
Here.
Mr. Sandberg?
Here.
Mr. Strickland? Mr. Trasick,
Here.
Dr. Williams,
Here.
and Ms. Trott.
Here.
Madam Chair, we do have quorum. I'd also like to note that we have myself and Jessica Beam present from the Landmarks Office and Sierra Lipscomb from Law.
Excellent. Well, then we will begin with our certificates of appropriateness. We'd like to welcome our first applicant forward to tell us about your project. First applicant is the Van Roy Coffee Building located at 2900 Detroit Avenue, window replacement.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
My name is Fred Bidwell. I'll be making the presentation here. You can go to the first slide. Go to the next slide. So for background, we're talking about the Van Roy building, which is a 1894 vintage factory building located in the Ohio City Historic District, 2900 Detroit Avenue. The building was acquired by Hingetown Holdings, of which I'm the owner, in 2015, and it was developed as a mixed-use project. The third floor was substantially remodeled with the addition of a rooftop deck and other improvements for myself and my wife as a private residence. The air rights for the first floor were sold to Spaces Gallery, a nonprofit arts organization who is running their programming from that space. And then the air rights for the second floor were sold to Gravitas Ventures, which remodeled it and leases it to a consortium of lawyers and a financial firm as Class A office space. The project being submitted to you today is for the third floor only. The project has the approval of the other two building owners as required by our reciprocal operating agreement, which governs the management and maintenance of the building. The other owners have opted not to make this investment to replace their windows at this time. Go on to the next slide. We propose to replace all of the existing windows. There are 73 of them on the third floor, with the exception of a few of the windows on the north elevation, which were replaced when the floor was remodeled in 2017. The existing windows are traditional single pane windows that were likely replaced in the 40s. And then in the 2000s, when the building was repurposed as social service offices, single pane storm windows were applied over those windows. Clearly the windows have outlived their useful life and do not meet current energy conservation standards. The proposed replacement windows are high quality double pane energy efficient windows, which would allow the removal of storm windows, which currently significantly obscure the design of the windows. The project would return all of the windows to the original design appearance, except for, it would replace all of those windows, the existing design or the original design appearance on the east, south, and west side of the buildings, with the exception of 12 windows on the north end of the west elevation, which are proposed to be fixed windows with no muttons. The purpose of this change is to capitalize on the building's unique view shed over Jim Mahone Green, the old Cuyahoga River, and Lake Erie. Our intention is to preserve and enhance the historic facades of the building, which face the street and the neighborhoods, while enhancing the value and functionality of the building on the back side of the building, which is out of view of the neighborhood, and to match the windows on the north side of the building. It's a significant project. It's a budget of about $350,000. The general contractor is Fred Oliveri Construction. The window contractor is Fenestrom. Let's move to the next slide. These drawings will show which windows will be replaced. This is the north and south elevations. Again, this is the third floor only. The manufacturer, there are two manufacturers here. One manufacturer is Lincoln, the other manufacturer is Quaker. Lincoln gave a better proposal on the windows with the arched tops, and that's why the difference. Let's go to the next slide. Here's the east elevation. All of these windows would be replaced by new Lincoln windows. Go to the next slide. And here's the west elevation, and this shows the proposed design change where these are all Quaker manufactured windows. The 12 windows on the north end of the west elevation would be fixed with no muttons. The rest of them would be the traditional design. Let's go to the next slide. So here is a view of the existing condition of the front of the building facing Detroit. Right now, where this view is looking northwest. So this is the existing condition. Let's go to the next slide. And this is the proposed. Even though the difference may be subtle, just by removing the storm windows, it really reveals the original intended design, and I think it will be a big improvement to the facade of the building. Let's go to the next slide. Here's the current view of the building, again from Detroit Avenue, this time looking northeast. So a view from Detroit Avenue, existing condition, and the next slide shows the proposed. And you can see that from the viewpoint of the neighborhood, there's very little change, except for, again, removing the storm windows sort of reveals the intended design of the windows. Let's move to the next slide. Now we're looking at the back of the building from the shoreway. So this point of view is looking southeast. And this is the condition, current condition of the building. You can see the existing fixed windows on the north end of the building, and then the existing windows with storm windows covering them on the east elevation, or west elevation, I'm sorry. Let's go to the next slide, the proposed condition. As you can see, the 12 windows that would be without muttons now match the windows on the north facade of the building. But really the view, there is no view from the neighborhood. Those who will really see this end of the building are traveling on the shoreway at about 50 miles an hour. So we feel that there'll be a very little sort of aesthetic impact on the neighborhood, but will add considerably to the value of the property because of the quality of the views. So let's move to the next slide. These are just drawings of the windows. Both Lincoln and Quaker are very high quality manufacturers, and this will result in significant improvement in the energy efficiency of the building. And one more slide. This is Lincoln, and this is a look at the Quaker design. So that's what I have today. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Excellent. Thank you for the presentation. Before we get to our questions, we are going to review the Design Review Advisory Committee recommendations.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This project was reviewed by the Historic Ohio City Design Review Advisory Committee on March 19th. There was a lot of discussion about the location of the kind of change from windows with muttons or muttons with windows without. Some of the committee members noting that it strikes a balance between preserving historic window configuration and then going more modern in a less district visible area. And so there's a lot of discussion about the muttons that were proposed and simulated divided light versus internal grids. And ultimately, the committee did recommend the issuance of a certificate of appropriateness with recommendation for the commission to consider the question of internal versus external muttons.
Excellent, thank you. And landmark staff recommendation?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Staff appreciates the upgraded materials being proposed. I think like the local committee was getting at, we generally prefer to see exterior express muttons or simulated divided lights and a cohesive treatment of all the windows on a building, but understand the considerations given the location and quantity of the windows and the quantity or the quality of the windows that are being proposed, and that there's different ownerships of the different floors of the building. So yeah, I think, staff is aligned with the local design review advisory committee and recommend issuance of the certificate of appropriateness.
All right, excellent, thank you. Then we'll open up the floor to the commission for questions and comments. Who would like to start us off? All right, well then I will start us off. I would echo what has been said. We appreciate you looking at quality manufacturers and replacing these in a cohesive way across the area you can of the third floor, and would be recommend that whatever we decide and approve today is the standard for the building moving forward. Related to design, aesthetic, and also potentially consideration for the manufacturer. So whatever, if there is a staggered year installation or replacement, at least the building will have that cohesive element because you are using two different manufacturers, but both are very quality manufacturers. So I do appreciate that. I have no issues with the replacement of the windows on the south and the east side. I think those is a good direction. I would agree with staff and local that, I prefer an exterior mutton because it is re-establishing those elements that, have been lost through the storms for so many years, like you said, and brings that quality detail. I personally would prefer the entire west elevation to have the muttons though. I understand the distinction between what the neighborhood can see or not, but I personally would respectfully disagree a little bit because so many people do appreciate your building on the Shoreway. And I personally, would prefer to all have the muttons, whether they're internal or external, for that cohesive manner, and let the north elevation stand alone, since that one really is not visible from afar, because of how it sits related to the Shoreway. I don't know if I would object the entire project because of it. That's just my personal preference. So overall, I am in support of the project, but those are the two items of note that I wanted to make. Other questions and comments from the commission? Michelle, I'm sorry. Sorry to see you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Question, what is the material of the windows? What are they made out of? I missed it.
Yeah, I think I'm saying this right. The Quaker windows are wood aluminum clad, and the Lincoln windows are extruded aluminum.
Okay, thank you. And let's see if I have I have had building owners express frustration with the exterior clad muttons that, they break when the windows are being cleaned, or there's just been issues with them. So I understand the desire to put the internal muttons in it. it's more practical for sure. I think I'm in alignment with the chair that maybe the southern elevation have the externally applied muttons, but the balance of them would be the internal muttons just to make maintenance easier. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. Other questions and comments?
I hear your comments about the exterior muttons on the southern elevation. I'll commit to looking into that with my contractors and see if that's practical. If it's not a super significant budget change, I'm happy to make that adjustment. Because I agree with it. I think, it's more attractive, more reflective of the original design. I mean, there is a practical consideration. They're tough to clean, but if it's, but I'd be happy to, take that on for the southern elevation.
Okay. Mr. Dulick?
Thank you,
for that
Madam
feedback.
Chair.
Sorry about that. Thank you for that feedback, Mr. Dulick.
Certainly. Through the chair to the applicant, really appreciate the fact that you're continuing to upgrade this incredible building. So thank you for that, and continue to invest in it. Not to put too fine a point on it, but I think I agree with Ms. Anderson that particularly from this point of view, it really feels like there's two distinct pieces of the building. So I just want to think the logic through. I think that the exterior mullions are really important on this facade, as Ms. Anderson has suggested. I think wrapping it around onto that end facade, because that's where the finished brick is, and the rest of it is your pretty straightforward Cleveland industrial mill building. So I think it's very important, the front portions of the facade for the exterior applied mullions to be on those windows. But as far as the other treatments goes, I think it's actually kind of interesting to pull the non-mullion windows around for a portion of the east facade. This is just my personal take on it. I think it adds to the story of the building, and I think as you're zooming along the shoreway, in some subtle way, it's going to make you think, and I think that's always a wonderful thing to do. So I'm in support of the project as long as we get the exterior applied mullions on the kind of more architectural, for lack of a better term, portion of the building. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dulick. Other questions and comments? Mr. Lozier?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I also just want to continue to echo our appreciation for the investment that you've made in this building and the continued investment that you are making in this building as well. I think I really appreciate Mr. Dulick's comments because I think I'm probably most aligned with that. If there is the opportunity to get the exterior applied muntins on the primary finished portion of the building, let's call it from this angle, with the balance being what you have proposed. I think it's also really important to note too what Ms. Trott had said as well. This is really sort of setting the standard for window replacement for the building moving forward. So I think this is a really great way to continue the longevity of this building. Yeah, I think I would be okay with the single monolithic windows wrapping the corner. But again, I think that would then set the precedent for the other floors moving forward to have that similar sort of cohesiveness as well. I also probably experienced this maybe just as much on the Shoreway as on Detroit. So seeing the importance of this building as part of both those experiences, I think is really important. The front, again, lends itself to the historic, Ohio City area, and the sort of the rear reflects the industrial past. So Again, thank you for your continued investment with this building. It's truly a gem in the neighborhood and in the city. Yeah, so those are my thoughts. But thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lozier. Other questions and comments from the commission? Would someone like to put forward a motion? Mr. Dulick?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to make a motion to approve as presented, but I'd like to make it a requirement. I would ask staff to weigh in on that the exterior applied mullions be implemented at the architecturally finished portion of the south and east facades.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion with a condition. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion?
Madam Chair, I wonder if anyone on this commission has any sense of the cost implications of that. I mean, the applicant has shared that he's very willing if it is not a big budgetary impact, and I am conscious of the budgetary impact of setting that precedent on other floors as well. This is a significant investment that some of the other floor occupants may, you know, it may be a very big reach for them. So I am conscious of the financial impact of setting that precedent in terms of it being a requirement versus a recommendation.
Right, it is dependent on the manufacturer, so I don't know if I personally could give you that knowledge, and it doesn't seem like Mr. Stanberry and Mr. Lozier feels the same way. We do know there is a cost difference, but I don't believe we can't define that right now in this meeting.
Yeah, I do not know what the cost difference would be. I'm not terribly concerned about it, so I'm not troubled by the requirement. I mean, I cannot obviously speak for the owners of the other two floors. I think they, you know, they have budget constraints that I don't have. So, you know, I think the only implication there is like, it's a requirement that they must match. It may be a burden for them.
But we are talking about the second floor, you know, at this point too, only.
Yeah, it's true that the second floor is the only one that would be impacted by that requirement.
Any additional questions or comments? Not seeing any. Mr. Musson, please call roll.
And Ms. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Dulick,
Yes.
Councilmember Gray,
Yes.
Mr. Lozier,
Yes.
Director Mersman,
Yes.
Ms. Saban,
Yes.
Mr. Stanberry,
Yes.
Mr. Trosick,
Yes.
Dr. Williams,
Yes.
and Ms. Trott.
Yes.
Madam Chair, the motion passes unanimously.
Excellent. Congratulations. We look forward to seeing your project move forward.
Thank you so much for your support. Much appreciated.
Thank you. Great. We'll now move on to our next applicant located 13708 Ardoon Avenue fence replacement. Or fence installation, sorry.
All right. Just want to kick it off.
Yes, feel free to present, just announce yourself so we have it for our record, and then let us know about your project.
I love it. Thank you. Thank you. My name is Brandon Krastowski, and I'm with my wife here, Katana Krastowski, and we are here to present the addition here of a historic New England white picket fence to our residence here at 13708 Ardoon, which resides in Cleveland, Ohio, in the Shaker Square Historic District. The purpose of the fence is to not only enhance the history of our house, but to enhance the safety of our 5 children. And what we plan to do is erect this wooden fence, which I just want to really underscore that we've searched long and hard to find someone who could still give the feel of our 1920 built home, with a Borchardt fence, who was established in 1950 here in Cleveland, Ohio. And they're willing to build the fence on site with pressure treated wood. So we've looked at all angles of this to preserve the neighborhood and the aesthetic. But we also recognize that it's a change to the look. So my wife would love to present this this PowerPoint she put together, and I will just pass it on to her. But I just want to thank you ahead of time, everyone here at Landmarks, for their time and willingness to hear this addition to our house.
Hi, this is Katana Krastowski. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you, Brandon, for leading off. So the first slide here is just the location of our home in the Chalk neighborhood. You can see we're right off Shaker Square. And next slide, please. That is a front view of our home. Just to note, we have the cedar shake siding. It's white painted wood, which is why we chose to go with the wood fencing, to stick with the look and feel of our house, white wood. Next slide, please. This is another view of our house further away from the street. Next slide, please. This is a drawing of where the fence would go. It would run along the side of our driveway, from back near our garage up to the sidewalk. Although in the last hearing under design review, they proposed that we would stay 3 feet off of the sidewalk. So there is a slight change in this drawing regarding that. Go across the front of our yard and then back down our side yard to the front left of our house. Next slide, please. This is a AI generated image. So the fencing that we are actually use is not capped. And it's but otherwise it's the same theme where you can see at least 50% visibility through the fence, and it is a white painted wood fence that would cross our driveway with a gate. And we would also have a gate at the back near our driveway, just to be more neighborly, for access to, 2 ways to go see your neighbor there to the left. Next slide, please. This is the fencing that we plan on using, the Breezewood space picket fence. And you can see the style. It's just sort of the even white picket fence. Um, no more than 41 inches high, as recommended by the last committee. Next slide, please. This is another image of the fence, where you can see the style. That'd be the even pickets, no caps. Next slide, please. This is our neighbor, approximately 7 houses down to the left, that have a similar white picket fence. They do have a capped fence, but just to show there is a similar style of fence already in our neighborhood. Next slide, please. This is our neighbor, 3 houses to our right or to the east. This is a fence that they have. While this is considered their backyard, it does go right up to the sidewalk, and it's taller than 41 inches. But it's again a picket wood fence, that wraps all the way around the back of their house and goes up the side of their driveway, right along the driveway of their neighbor's drive. Next slide, please. This is an email from, oh, sorry, the first name wasn't redacted as well, but anyways, it's from August 2nd of last year. So, one, we really like how this fence will look. It's a very pretty fence, ornamental, goes with the theme of our house. But also we have a big concern about safety in our neighborhood. We moved here almost 11 years ago, and the traffic has gotten progressively worse. Neighbor to the west of us installed one of those. It's like a pylon bump out on the from the curb to slow traffic down. And on our end of the street, our neighborhood is used as a cut through to skip going through Shaker Square, or wherever else, it is commonly used as a cut through where cars will come through, speed, not stop at the stop sign, and just carry on going. So by the time they pass our house, they're going. I mean, I don't have a speed gun, but it appears they're going like at least 40 miles per hour. These cars go so fast; they do not care because they're not from our neighborhood, and it's a common occurrence, especially uh, you know, during well all hours really. So this is a email from our we have a neighborhood email, the Chalk neighborhood, and it's a group where many of the residents belong. We'll email about meetings, concerns in the neighborhood, things like that. So in this email, the person is talking about um, addressing speed issues for our neighborhood. So that's from August of last summer. Next slide, please. So this email is from August as well. It's from a different neighbor who also expressed concern about the speeding in our neighborhood. You can actually go to the next slide. I wasn't sure what part to capture, so the first slide isn't actually relevant. But this addresses that one of the issues as well is speeding in our neighborhood, traffic concerns, how to remedy the cars that are driving excessively fast in our neighborhood. Next slide, please. So you can see that they're talking about installing speed tables, increasing traffic on the other streets, and to ask about just increasing the safety in our neighborhood as far as cars exceeding the speed limit. Next slide, please. And this is one last slide from that same neighborhood on August 14th of last summer. Again, reiterating the concern in our neighborhood in general about cars speeding and the safety concern. So to join to discuss in the very bottom email it says, let's join us to discuss the options to reduce traffic volume and speed in our neighborhood. Next slide, please. I think that might actually be my. Oh, this is article that was recently in Cleveland.com. Uh, March, I think it says 13th. So this is less than 2 weeks ago, about increased concerns about people ignoring traffic laws, signage, excessive speeding, also reduction in the number of officers on the street. And next slide, please. In this article, it discusses how people are less likely to obey traffic laws, um, how police cannot, that people are aware that police cannot chase vehicles or should not, because of how it does create even more dangerous situation. So just the uptick in traffic violations, the exponentially high uptick in traffic violations in Cleveland. And so we just included this article to note that it's not just in our neighborhood, it is a citywide issue with a number of factors contributing. And, so people beyond our neighborhood are concerned about the uptick in traffic violations and the speeding in our city. Next slide, please. And that was the end of my presentation. So in all, the fence, you know, if you allow us to put it up, it's going to be a beautiful fence, very cute. The white wood picket fence to go with our house. So aesthetically pleasing, but also, we have 5 children. The youngest will be um turning 1 this summer, and then second youngest turning 3 this summer. So, we could keep a good eye on our children, but it's really concerning to live on a street where people just blatantly ignore the signage, blatantly ignore the speed limit, and just drive really far too fast.
So just to conclude everything, I again, we really thought long and hard about this. I mean, this is going on years to really disrupt and place a fence on since 1920, there's never been a fence on this property, right? 8,400 square feet is a lot. It's about 2,300 square feet indoors. And so we really thought long and hard, how can we balance safety, but maintaining the historic aesthetic of this home? We love this home. The last 5 owners of this home have not ever changed anything inside or outside, and nor have we, with the exception of a small bump out. And so our heart is centered on preserving the look of the 1920s when this was built, and also complement it. But so if you have any questions or comments, we're happy to answer. But just want to stress the fact that we've really worked long and hard to find the right fence maker who will build this on site and continue that historic look of our home.
Thank you for the presentation. We truly appreciate it. Before we get to our comments, we are going to review the Design Review Advisory Committee recommendations.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This project was reviewed by the Greater Cuyahoga Valley Historic Design Review Advisory Committee on March 17th. There was a lot of discussion about the introduction of a front yard fence into a district that has continuous front yards. So one of the committee members did mention it's right on that Shaker border, and Shaker's requirements for front yard fences are slightly more stringent than the Cleveland code for front yard fences. And so they mentioned possibly looking into that, where it's required to be set back at least 3 feet or 2/3 of the yard and include screening. There was questions on the feeling with the neighbor, because the driveways are right next to each other, and kind of how close that would be to the driveway. And discussion on possibly lowering it to 36 inches instead of the 41 inches to allow for better visibility for cars that are backing up, to be able to see the sidewalk, and also to be set back from the sidewalk to consider the feel of the public space, to allow for a little bit of a buffer between people walking on the sidewalk and the fence itself. So ultimately, they did make a recommendation for the issuance of a certificate of appropriateness with conditions that the fence be set back no less than 3 feet from the sidewalk, and explore not exceeding the 41-inch height, somewhere between the 36 inches and 41 inches.
All right, thank you for that feedback. And Landmark's staff recommendation.
Right, thank you, Madam Chair. This looks like a lovely fence and a design that's appropriate to the neighborhood. Staff does have concerns that this would cause a significant impact on the neighborhood, as there are currently no fences that cut across the entire front of the property at the sidewalk line. The examples that were shown, the one is actually a fence set much deeper on the property, closer to the front of the house where you can see, and then the image in the top left, as the applicant said, is a corner house, so that's technically their rear yard, so slightly different rules as far as zoning and appropriateness are concerned. This fence is allowed by zoning, so long as it's defined as ornamental. So if the commission feels that it's ornamental, they would not need to go to Board of Zoning Appeals or need any other approvals from the city, from any other bodies other than building and housing. So I think staff would be more comfortable if the fence was a bit closer to the house. Sort of like the Shaker, I know this isn't Shaker Heights, their rules don't necessarily apply, but since it is so close to the border, I think, utilizing or borrowing some of their regulations as suggestions would be helpful, and that the fence may be up to 3 feet in height and set back 2/3 of the required setback. So that would push it significantly further back into the front yard. I think that would be helpful visually for the neighborhood. I did speak with the property owner next door, who expressed some concerns about being able to open her car door in her driveway and then maintaining access to the rear of her garage for maintenance, because this is one of those situations where it's 2 driveways that run next to each other and there's a small strip of grass between. So wanted to note that, and I believe she said that there's been some conversations between the owners and her, so hopefully they can work that out in a way that is mutually beneficial. So yeah, I think staff has concerns about introducing front yard fences in a neighborhood and historic district where there really aren't any. So I think there kind of needs to be a larger discussion on if this is a precedent we want to set, and moving forward, if this is something that we want to see more of in the neighborhood.
Okay, excellent. And just for one last clarification before we move on, what is the fence required, the setback? It says in here for Shaker or for Cleveland, it says 2/3 of required setback. What is the required setback in this area? Do we know?
I don't know the actual like linear footage, but I think, you know, there's a pretty established setback with houses if you look at an aerial map. So I think whatever 2/3 of that was, and
That's the
don't have a
precedent
number.
setback is may not be the listed setback. Is that correct? Zoning setback?
correct. Yeah, I'm not sure what the zoning setback is.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for those recommendations. We'll then open up the floor for questions and comments from the commission. If the owner would like to go first before we actually get to our questions, please proceed.
I mean, I think we presented and we, you know, it was pretty clear what we're trying to do. We understand the difference that it would make in the neighborhood. That's why we're extremely conscious of choosing a fence maker. Well, he's a historic fence maker in his own right from the 1950s. We did receive approval for I suppose like a variation in our setback to be 3 feet. I know that you'd said that. I just want to reiterate that the 3 feet from the sidewalk is where we've established the it to be, not so close as in this picture. I don't disagree with the 3-foot height, so it doesn't feel so demonstrative. You know, it's in this AI picture, it looks like a fortress, right? And just so you know, the fence itself, we're looking at well, if it would be 3 feet, it'd be 1 by 3, but here we're saying it's a 4 by 4 inch by 4 foot post. It's 4 inch by 4 foot post, 2 inch by 4 foot rails holding the fence together, and just 1 inch by 4 feet of the dog-eared cut. And of course, if that lowers to 3 feet, it would be 36 inches. But there's nothing more for me personally, unless my wife wants to add something. It was just a long, conscious decision. We understand that the neighbor, would be affected by that. We talked about the location of how the fence would split. But it's this is really important to us in a family, just having the kids.
I do have two things to add. One, in talking to the neighbor about access to the garage, we would have a second gate at the back of the fence for easy access for her to go around the back of her garage because her garage is right actually on the property line. And so she, contractors, whomever, could easily open the gate and access her garage. It's not a matter of them having to come all the way down our driveway because we had talked to her about it. We're planning to install a second gate for her to easily get back there. And secondly, actually the image that you all showed of the neighbor with the higher backyard fence that goes right along the sidewalk. So once you cross their driveway, they do actually, it looks like, have a front yard fence that is only a few feet off of the sidewalk. And in addition to that, they have those big bushes. But you can see in that image that they do have, um, that was when, so you can see there's a fence that's just 2 or 3 feet off to the right of the driveway. And then their bushes actually come up right to the sidewalk, or quite honestly, sometimes over the sidewalk, but I don't mind the bushes. They look nice. They like the bushes. So anyways, there is that sort of like aesthetic feel within our neighborhood of a fence being along the, very close to a front yard fence being close to the sidewalk, and then the bushes, which are right on the sidewalk, and those are my
Sure.
two comments.
Okay, excellent. Thank you for that feedback. Even just for clarification, I think the image that we're looking at in the top left corner is actually at the side of your neighbor's house, correct?
Yes, that's the side, and the
Correct.
driveway
So
in the front is the right.
just for everyone, the commission's knowledge, that's just a side yard. So there are slight different requirements, excuse me, for side yards versus front yards. So I'll open up the floor of the commission for questions and comments. Obviously, I shouldn't. Go ahead, Director.
Good morning. Thank you for the presentation. I'm looking at the aerial overhead images of this neighborhood. It looks like your backyard is very small, so certainly understand why the front yard is the main playing space for your family and why a fence separated from an active roadway is really important. One of the things that I've learned on this commission over the last year is really considering the impacts of the proposals on the permanent state of the building. So, this fence is very reversible. It's not destroying any historic materials on the home, and does seem to contribute significantly to the quality of life and ability to stay in the house and be a vibrant and contributing member to the neighborhood. So I personally have no concerns with the idea of setting a precedent of fences along the street. That to me seems like something that can be reversed or taken out relatively easily if desired, and does have a significant quality of life contribution.
Thank you, Director. Other questions and comments from the commission?
Madam Chair, yes, since I am the councilwoman of that, in that area, I have been in that area for time in the last 4 years, of course, and I have viewed the other fences in that neighborhood, and not many fences are up per se, but they're up for like decorative reasons that they want to have them, but due to this particular fence on I'm gonna say Brandon because I have a hard time pronouncing your last name. However, on that property, I had a discussion with Brandon last week, concerning the fence being up there, and also with the concerns of the neighbor. Concerns too, and since they did have that discussion with the neighbor, because the fence is going to be going towards the back, and I'm not a fence expertise, but however, they said they had the discussion with the neighbor, and as his wife stated that they will be able to adjust that problem as she drives back into her backyard. But I think the fence is be something that I don't have a problem with, because they do have children and they want to protect the children. And because of the speeding in every area citywide, I do understand their sentiments of having the fence so their children would not be impacted with the speeding in the area. But I will also say that I will agree with the commission board decision on moving forward with the fence as well, because I have no objections with this fence myself. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Other questions and comments from the commission? Ms. Anderson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question is, well, I went through like the Google Street View of Ardoon and the area around there, and I noticed there were no fences per se, but there were yards that were lined with like privet hedges and a kind of a green fence to create that that demarcation of space. And I was wondering if the applicant explored anything like that to stay more consistent with the neighborhood, but still, create a boundary.
Yeah, that's a good question. We both had worked with speaking with we've been to Petites or Bremix and looking at these certain options. There's just one, I love the natural idea. Don't get me wrong, but the functionality of the kids just kind of slipping through was one. Two, it's just we don't mind pruning tree, we don't mind ongoing maintenance. That's part of being a homeowner, and we enjoy being homeowners. But we just felt that the fence, the durability of it, and just trying to make it look as if it was from the era, right? Was kind of why we leaned on the fence idea. So for one, for the security of the area with the children, but two, just the aesthetics of it.
I have a second question.
Sure.
I noticed there were no actual fences that were introduced into the front yards of the neighborhoods, maybe the sides, but not on the front. And it led me to wonder if there was any kind of deed restriction for that subdivision that might have kept people from being able to erect, formal fence like that.
Not that we found. It all went by the city code and the historic commission here, the landmarks commission, but not that we found that in the deed that there was anything restricting it. I can tell you some other things that they restricted in deeds in our neighborhood. They're politically correct today, but we did not find that to be the case.
We'll keep those out of the public record today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson, other questions?
That should do it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. Mr. Lozier?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I want to recognize that I really appreciate the presentation and the reasoning behind wanting to have the fence. And I think, and I don't have an issue with a fence per se, but I am a little bit challenged by a couple of things. One is the location of it along the sort of the front of, along the sidewalk. And there's a couple reasons. One, with the gate, as you're pulling into the driveway, there's not any room to actually get out and open the gate unless you're parked in the street. So making sure that there's enough space to pull your car in to be able to facilitate that, I think would be something that would be necessary. The height also to me is challenging as well. I mean, and I know that the sort of revised proposal is moving this 3 feet back and reducing the height. It goes from being something that I would consider ornamental to something that feels more of a barrier between the public way and the street, or the public way and the yard, and it does disrupt the rhythm that you're seeing along the street currently. The neighbor further down with the ornamental fence in the front of their yard that is pushed significantly back, and it feels like it's an ornamental fence, right? It feels like it's part of the larger design of the home in the front yard, and it sort of works well within that. I think a couple of reasons. One, it's a little bit lower. Two, it doesn't sort of cross the entirety of the front yard, and it's sort of surrounded with other landscaping to sort of soften that a little bit more. My thought here is, in more alignment with staff, where maybe we take a look at or consider the Shaker Heights requirements for fences with the 2/3 setback. I think that, while it would still, provide some level of security of the front yard in front of the house, it does still feel like it's more in keeping with the rest of the street and the rest of the neighborhood. So, my thought would be that this needs to be pushed back, 2/3 to maintain that sort of setback, and the height reduced to no more than 36 inches. I would say that even less than that, probably from an aesthetic perspective and ornamental perspective, feels better and more keeping with the vintage of this home and the sort of the vintage of this area of the neighborhood.
Thank you, Mr. Lozier. Mr. Stanberry?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think I align more with Director Mersman on the reversibility of this, and they've definitely done their homework and found a fence that is appropriate to the style of the house. And maybe there's some kind of compromise. I know they've already said setback 3 feet, and maybe the the fence that is street fronting could be a little bit lower than the sides if if they need a higher fence for their needs. Just some kind of compromise that drops it maybe in the front of the yard. It can go taller in the back if that's something they're looking for. And maybe 3 feet isn't enough of a setback for a car to pull in and open the gate. Maybe 5 feet or 6 feet or something a little bit further. Still gives them a full front yard. But I think I'm okay with the design. But I think there's probably some kind of compromise that could be met.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Stanberry. I think you echoed what I was going to say is that I would be more aligned with Director Mersman that I think this is reversible, but I do having a fence across my own, my own yard, more be it by it's aligned with my house, but having that ability to pull in and open a gate to make sure it's clear on the other side is really important. And not obstructing, at least a street, if not the sidewalk. It's ideal not to obstruct the sidewalk, but it should be at least getting the car out of the street. So I do feel it should be set back. I also do think it still maintains that front yard aspect to the design when you do have it set back and potentially some landscaping in front of it. So you do still have that public presence, but it really allows you to capture that yard for your kids, which I personally am in support of because I think this will be my soapbox that I'll get back off in a second, is that it would be nice to see kids in the front yard playing and bringing some life. I think too often we've all been within or in our backyards that you don't know when your neighbors are out. You don't have that front porch per se, like other houses do in other neighborhoods, to really be in that front, sort of semi-public space. So I personally like it, but once again, I would also recommend that it is pulled back at least 3 feet. I think the final distance could be coordinated with staff to make sure that we feel like it's safe from the public way to get a car off the street. And I would support the 3-foot height, maximum 3-foot height, because I think if you do put landscaping, in front of that fence, it also gives you that sort of additional buffer to capture things like balls and things like that will go over your fence, because they go over my 5-foot fence, let's be honest. Yes, so I'm in support of it with those two revisions, pulling it back from the street at least 3 feet from the sidewalk, if not more, to get a car off the street, and a 36-inch height, I could say, at the front yard at a minimum, to allow that in better alignment with adjacent properties. Mr. Trosik?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think the chair has expressed some of the comments I wanted to make. I would agree with a little bit of a setback, 3-foot setback here. I think the 2/3 setback that they have in Shaker, with all due respect to comments made by my colleagues here, I think it kind of defeats, and I don't want to speak for the owners, but I think it kind of defeats the purpose, having a setback that far, and being able to utilize that for the kids to have an area to play in. But I do understand, I do agree with having a setback far enough to be able to get the car off of the street. So I would agree with the chair's comments as well as that of the director and the councilwoman.
Any other questions and comments from the commission? Ms. Anderson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a number of comments here. I'm inclined to lean more towards the 2/3 setback that's established with the city of Shaker Heights. And I think if they put up a fence in order to maintain the consistency with the neighborhood, I would like to see some sort of a hedge or privet or some sort of greenery that would somewhat obscure the fence and would make it more aligned with the treatment that the neighbors have. And as far as the gate goes, I don't think a 3-foot setback would be enough to pull a car in and not get in the way of
possible pedestrians on the sidewalks. I would think it would need to be a little farther back. And it would also be less prominent to the street if it was a little farther back. So I think for safety and aesthetics, that probably should be maybe even closer to the setback of the house. You know, that's usually where a lot of the gates are. But, you know, even somewhere in between would be fine. So those are my conclusions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. All right, any other questions or comments, or would someone like to put forward a motion? Director?
Oh,
I'd like to
I'm
ma-
sorry. I apologize for cutting you off, Director. I was trying to unmute really quickly. I just want to say thank you for everyone for their comments. Totally agree with the 3-foot height. I think the 4-foot might have been a little too advantageous. We're going to ask for the 3-foot setback just for the sake of the yard. It's going to be 4 feet. Okay, 4 feet, but you know, we don't mind parking this for pretty active adults if we have to open the gate. And there's also fence openers that that I'm sure could be installed if you feel it's that much of an issue. But overall, just want to say thank you for everyone's careful consideration. And Director, love your voice. That's great. You know, it is removable if I suppose if we ever need to. And appreciate the gentleman who came out to actually look on site. And working with the city of Cleveland sometimes just takes some context and a human being to look. So thank you for taking the time to come out and look at the neighborhood.
Thank you for that feedback.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the fence with the 3-foot setback from the sidewalk at a 3-foot height, with the recommendation that the applicant install some screening landscaping between the sidewalk and the fence line.
Thank you. We have a motion with conditions. Do we have a second?
Second.
We will go with Mr. Stanberry at this point. So we have a second by Mr. Stanberry. Any further discussion? Mr. Lozier?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do, you know, I'm not going to obstruct this motion, but I do think that there is a concern about being able to pull off the street, and having only a 3-foot setback may create more of a challenging situation if you're not able to get the car off the street and into the driveway to be able to open the fence. So I would recommend potentially that final setback is reviewed with staff to ensure that a typical car is able to pull off of the street, ideally not obstruct the sidewalk, because that is also another hazard. In order to confirm kind of what the right setback is based on, you know, the distance from the street to the sidewalk, and then the sidewalk to the front of the fence.
Okay.
Madam Chair, if I may offer just a comment on that. Based on some aerial measurements, it looks like from the curb line to the fence with the 3-foot setback would be sufficient to clear the roadway. Given where the sidewalk is, you know, 15 to 20 feet in to clear the sidewalk, as well as significantly cutting into the yard space. So personally, I feel comfortable with knowing that the back of the car won't be hanging out into the street. And I think given the volume of pedestrians, traffic, the time taken to pull in and out of a single family driveway, that those balance out all right for the temporary obstruction of the sidewalk.
Thank you, Director. Yes, the owner has their hand up. Katana?
Hi, I just wanted to thank you for your time, everyone. Reiterate, I am more than happy to park on the street for a moment to open a gate. My preference would be to do that rather than cutting in further, if that's, you know, the concern is us having to momentarily stop to open a gate in our driveway. We live on a 2-way street, so it's,
Right.
you know, maybe a few more seconds to just park, and there's plenty of parking on the street available for us to do that.
I think we're also just taking into consideration any precedent. So, you know, If you forgive the conversation, we're trying not to, since this is the first in the area, we also have to consider not just you, other circumstances. So that's why we're discussing this a little bit deeper. But we appreciate your feedback on that too. May I make a suggestion, Director? Would you consider adding a minimum of 3 feet to your motion and for final location to be reviewed by staff, just so that we feel that the distance is acceptable moving forward? But I do agree with you that, getting a car off the street is important, but not maybe past the sidewalk.
I do, of course, trust staff. I am also concerned about cutting too much into the yard, which is limited space and is the purpose for the fence. So I personally feel comfortable with the 3 feet
Okay.
in balancing all of the competing interests here.
Okay, excellent. All right, well then we will maintain the condition that has been put forward, and we have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? Not seen any. Mr. Musson, please call roll.
All right, Ms. Anderson,
No.
Mr. Dulick? Yes. Councilmember Gray,
Yes.
Mr. Lozier,
No.
Director Mearsman,
Yes.
Ms. Saban,
Yes.
Mr. Sambry,
Yes.
Mr. Trasick,
Yes.
Dr. Williams,
Yes.
and Ms. Trot.
Yes.
Madam Chair, the motion passes by a vote of 8-2.
All right. Congratulations, your project has been approved, and we look forward to seeing your project move forward.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
We'll now move on to our third applicant before we review the case. This project was tabled on February 26th. We do need a motion to untable.
Madam Chair, I move that we untable.
Thank you for the motion. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, thank you, Mr. Sandberg. We have a second. Any further discussion? No, Mr. Musson, please call roll.
Hey, Ms. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Dulick? Yes. Councilmember Gray,
Yes.
Mr. Lozier,
Yes.
Director Mearsman,
Yes.
Ms. Saban,
Yes.
Mr. Sambry,
Yes.
Mr. Trasick,
Yes.
Dr. Williams,
Yes.
and Ms. Trot.
Yes.
All right, Madam Chair, the motion passes.
All right, so we've, it has been untabled. We'd like to welcome the applicant to tell us about the updates to your project since we last saw you.
Hello, everyone. This is John Benedict, Brilliant Electric Sign Company. I'm joined here with Jack Maxwell of Brilliant and Anita Brunson with SEIU. I'm going to pass it along to Jack to speak through the changes that we're bringing.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having us on here. So we went back, we kind of discussed with Anita and her team over at SEIU and looked at, I know there were some suggestions to potentially be putting the sign on the wall, putting the sign in a different area, moving it back and whatnot. In the past, after speaking with Anita and her team in the past, when they had kind of created this landscape bed to put the ground sign here, originally they had wanted to look at the wall to potentially do like some type of wall cabinet up top there. And in the past, the board has actually rejected that and told them that that would take away from the architecture of the building there, which is a very valid point. We have that in a lot of different sign applications, and that's why there's different uses of different signs in different areas. With the size of the sign, I'm sorry, I'll start with the slides here. The slides kind of showing the different areas of visibility there. If you go to the next one, next slide, that's kind of the same thing, showing that. And then on the next slide, I believe, one more, sorry. Oh,
I think it's out of sequence potentially.
Oh, there it is. Okay, so I know that there was also a concern of what the size the existing sign was there. From the leading edge towards the sidewalk down to grade. It's at about 5'6" tall. So originally when we had proposed at the first meeting there, we were at about 9 foot tall. We had brought the sign down to 7 foot to try and make it a little bit well, off the suggestion of the board to take it down to the 7 foot. And that's really realistically where we would like to be. We did show another rendering in there showing on one of the next slides here, showing that it goes down to the that's the 7 foot one. And then this is the 6'6", taking 6 inches off the pole cover and having the address on there. Our concern with that is I think that we would be okay with this moving forward with this. The only concern with that, and I understand that at different times there's not as much snow in different areas, but this past winter we did have quite a bit of snow at certain times. And with that only being a 1 foot tall, I know that 6 inches doesn't sound much, but with that 6 inches and the amount of snow, you're only looking at about 1 foot and before you start it protruding into that sign visibility area there. So that's kind of where we had went down with the message center portion of things. The sizing, this is our desired size that we would like to be within, as we've already reduced it once. And SEIU is very accommodating to that. But at this point, continuing to reduce it more and more, I think that it's getting away from where their beginning goal was, which in that aspect, we're trying to keep it the exact same size, bring it down with the header cabinet, with 1'6" tall. We have to be within that height on the header cabinet. One, not only for the logo to be visible enough and have the correct area to put that in there, but also with the illumination in there, making that smaller is going to cause some issues with that. So as in the signage industry, typically header cabinets stay within the 1'6". I know there was also some concerns with vandalism and stuff along those lines, which we take and we appreciate the comments and we take those very seriously. In any aspect, in any location of any area, any sign can be vandalized. I think that these signs make a little bit of a difference with the illumination that they put off to kind of deter people from vandalizing them, because it kind of lights up the area a little bit. Not enough where, like I know we discussed in the last meeting, it does have the ability to dim down to where at nighttime it's not going to be as bright as it will be during the day. Just kind of like a cell phone, it has like a photo cell that that will make that board dim down. So in that aspect, we definitely took it into consideration, but with the existing sign there, we've had zero problems with it, and we believe that with this one, we think that we're in a good space here. I know that Anita is on this meeting now. On the last meeting, she had a little bit of microphone issues, and so she wasn't able to kind of give a little brief rundown of SEIU. I don't know if Anita, I see her on there. Yeah, if Anita, if you'd like to kind of give a little bit of a rundown of what SEIU is all about, that would be awesome, just so the board can kind of understand that.
Okay. I spoke at the first initial meeting that we were on, but 1199 is a labor organization, and our mission is to, improve the lives of working people and their families, and to achieve greater social and economic justice, where all people feel valued. So we're very much into engaging the community as a whole, not just our membership. We have several events where we really want to encourage that community involvement, which is really kind of hard to do without having some type of mechanism or a microphone that kind of gets it out there to the community that these events are going on. We recently just had a Martin Luther King celebration event there, where we did have, a lot of community members. We've held Black History events. Easter egg hunt is coming up. And again, we can get that information out to our membership through emails and things like that, but this really would allow us to have a voice within the community, and letting people know, hey, this is a safe place that we want everyone to come and gather, and kind of where it's at in with the Dave's Supermarket and the other parking lots kind of surrounding it. It also is what we're hearing, kind of hard to find the building because Google Maps and all of that really doesn't direct people to the right place. It wants to take them to the back of the parking lot. So that was also another reason why we were trying to envision a better way to make it more visible that this is our building. Here's what we want to do. Please come and break bread and share a safe space with us. So that's a little bit about why we really went the route we did with the digital sign.
Awesome. Thank you, Anita. I really appreciate that. One other thing that I wanted to add in as well, I know that another concern of the boards was what was going to be on the board, and making sure that there wasn't going to be flashing and blinking and everything else like that. That we saw in the code that there was that they wanted it to remain static and fixed for a minimum of 20 seconds, which again, SEIU has been more than accommodating and is completely okay with. So they're not looking to make this a Las Vegas blinking sign. As Anita just explained, this is to get valuable information out to the public, and continue forward with all the great things they do around the community there, community events. And that should be it.
Excellent. Thank you for the update on your presentation updating your presentation. We will then move on to landmark staff recommendations.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This was before this commission at your February 26, 2026. It was tabled by this commission to give the applicant the opportunity to kind of explore other signage options. In conversations with them, we kind of talked through the idea of moving the sign to the building, shrinking the sign in its current location. Part of the challenge with that being that I guess these display panels come in like 1 foot by 1 foot sections. So it's tough to shrink it down a little, I guess. But ultimately they decided to sort of, remove the 6 inches from the height and kind of present what they presented today. So I think staff would just say if an approval is granted, I would also, include granting any needed variances to the signage code. And then, the applicant submit a document that sort of outlines the schedule for the slides, be it no sooner than changing every 20 seconds, and then sort of hours of illumination, and if they intend to have it go more dim at certain hours or turn off, that be submitted to staff for final review and approval.
Okay, excellent. Thank you for that summary. We'll then open up the floor to the commission for questions and comments. Just to be clear, are you presenting you brought both of them forward. Are we presenting and asking, which one are we asking for approval of as the base?
So that the original that we had brought was the 7 foot tall with the 1'6" base. I know that there was some concerns with height. So we had brought in the 6'6" option to show the difference there. Ideally, we would like the 7 foot, but I think that would be where kind of our bottom would be, without really going back and potentially even redesigning the sign, which is not really at this time feasible. So I think that if possible, the 7 foot, but if the board feels more comfortable with the 6'6", I think that we can make that work.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Right, then we'll open up the floor to the commission for questions and comments. not seeing any questions and comments, then would someone like to make a motion? We need to move the case forward, so either please ask any questions you have. Mr. Stanberry?
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
All right, we have a motion to approve as presented. Do we have a second?
Madam Chair, I second the motion.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. We have a motion. We have a second. Any further discussion? Mr. Lozier?
Just for clarification, approve as presented for the taller sign
Mr.
or the
Stanberry?
lower sign?
Correct.
The 7 foot
The
high.
7 foot high.
Gotcha. Thank you.
And Dr. Williams, do you agree with that? The motion and your second is related to the 7 foot high?
Yes, yes, it is. And I
Okay.
do agree.
Thank you. Thank you. Any further discussion? All right, not seeing any. Mr. Musson, please call roll.
Ms. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Dulick.
Yes.
Mr. Lozier,
Yes.
Ms. Saban,
Yes.
Mr. Stanbury,
Yes.
Mr. Trassick,
Yes.
Dr. Williams,
Yes.
and Ms. Trott.
Yes.
Madam Chair, the motion passes unanimously.
All right, well, congratulations. Your project has been approved. We appreciate you
Yeah.
providing the exploration and talking us through your methodology, and we look forward to seeing your project move forward.
Thank you
Great.
so much
Thank
for
you so
everybody's
much.
time today. We really appreciate it.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you. We will then move on to our fourth applicant located at David's Place, Stella Maris, located at 1357 Washington Avenue. Yes.
Do the slides yourself. There's a clicker. It's the button on the right. There is a bit of a delay though.
Dramatic pause.
It's just.
Hello, everyone. Good morning.
Morning.
I'm Bob Bako with HSB Architects, representing Stella Maris for a proposed renovation for for David's Place, a new residential services building for their continuum of care. So the site we're talking about is actually the former rectory building for St. Malachi on the corner of 25th and Main, which is just up the street from Stella Maris's main campus. There's some existing photos of the property. On the upper left is the only historical photo we could find of the property. And we're hoping to find more, but it's been tough to find. And then there's on the four on the right there are existing photos. I should back up a little bit. So on this site plan, you can see this area to be removed is let's see, where's a good picture of it? On the middle picture on the top row. So there's that box that's built on the front of the building or the front of the house at some period in the house's history, which actually conceals the original entry to the house, the actual entry door and cornice, which you're going to see in a second here. So that we're proposing to remove that box and expose that original entry. So that's what you see here. So that's what we're doing here. So it's a better picture. So to the left, you can see the existing condition, and on the right, you can see the proposed entry door. I was talking to the design review previously. That existing box is concealing portions of that original entry area. So there's some artistic license in what we think is back in there. You can see the upper cornice a little bit. You can see some of the casing around the door. And so, our intentions are to expose it. And if it's, if it is exactly what it looks like here, that's what it's going to look like. But our intentions are to make it, to restore it to its original condition. And then also on the right, you can see our intentions to paint the house, right? We're going to introduce a more vibrant Victorian-based color scheme, painting the body of the building, and then obviously the cornices and the window headers and whatnot. In addition to the painting and the removal of the vestibule, we are going to be replacing the windows. In this iteration, we're showing divided lights. We're proposing to use fiberglass windows to replace them. We did propose vinyl at the design review, and there's some pushback on that. We did have the discussions with them about funding. You know, this project is, you know, there's some tight funding on this project, so we're hoping to do vinyl or wood if we can afford them, but we're thinking a compromise could be fiberglass. So we don't have to go back and forth with you guys. And this is just for context. This is the plans of the house. In addition to the exterior work, we're going to be providing some new toilet rooms on the bottom left corner of both floors, as you can see here. And this is for a residential program. There's not really any supervision. It's you know, at a point in their recovery where they're independent and they need places to stay for a period of time. So there's no, you know, control over them, so to speak, for lack of a better definition. And I think that's it. That's it.
All right, thank you for the presentation.
Okay.
Before we get to our comments, we will review the Design Review Advisory Committee recommendations.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This went to the Historic Ohio City Design Review Advisory Committee on April 19th, but it was actually March 19th so last week. And the committee recommended issuance of a certificate of appropriateness with the condition that the windows, the wood, are an upgraded material on the visible elevations. And, you know, if staff or if cost is an issue, that they wanted to have that discussion again, that it's just a real resistance to seeing vinyl windows on this. And then there's a lot of discussion about the use of muntins or grids in these windows. They felt that they should be 1/1 unless there's historic evidence showing that they were 6/6 or 2/2 or something other than 1/1.
Yeah.
Okay. And landmark staff recommendation?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So staff, we had a lot of internal discussion about it. It's kind of an interesting situation where we don't know exactly what's behind the little bump out that was added. And so we understand wanting exploratory demo to see what's underneath there, but also want to see what those final plans are once the door surround has been exposed and kind of the drawings and plans for that. And we'd also want to note that we'd like to see what the final color details are, as well as possibly a window plan. There's a variety of sizes of windows there, so I want to make sure what windows are going where. And also agree with locals comment that the grids, if there is found that grids are appropriate for this building, then that's great, and add that. We prefer them to be exterior grids. But overall, like the concept seems great. It's a great building that is on a kind of prominent corner that if you drive past, you're like, oh, this is a great building. So we're also happy as staff to assist with like a site visit to look at the details as they develop, especially with that new entry door. And but overall, excited to see the renovation move forward.
Excellent, thank you. We will then open up the floor to the commission for questions and comments. Ms. Anderson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm really excited to see the direction you're taking this project. I think this is really going to turn around this, relatively rare Italianate structure from this era. We don't have a lot left, and I'm really pleased to see historically correct color scheme. I like what you're doing, restoring that entrance area. My comments about the windows is, I realize you probably have a pretty tight budget and renovation is very expensive. But I think in the long run, if you put in a better quality window, not a vinyl window, you'll save money, because routinely I'm seeing people, needing to replace their vinyl windows after 25 years. So I think a better quality window will give you more longevity there. In the long run, it'll be to your benefit. My concern is the white of the windows is a little too stark. I think a more of an off-white, like the trim. I love the trim. I love the color. I think that this is really, really terrific, but I think the windows being more consistent with that off-white would be preferable. But overall, I'm delighted to see this.
Right.
I think it'll be such a nice improvement to that whole area.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. Other questions and comments? Mr. Sandberry?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think this is a great project. It's a great building that's kind of hidden and not a prominent part of the city, and I think it could really shine a little bit more. I just want to make sure that some of the things you're doing to the outside are compatible with the way you would handle those materials. Scraping the paint before we paint it. It looks like the rendering has downspouts unpainted, and this probably historically had internal downspouts. So just paint the downspouts to match the adjacent surfaces, hide them a little bit more. But otherwise, I think it's really awesome. You're bringing back that front door. I agree with the divided lights on the windows. It probably did not have divided lights. It was probably a much more stately house, and they could afford the full glass windows instead of smaller pieces of glass. But overall, I think you're doing it. This is a great project.
Great, thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Sandberry. I think I'd echo everything that's said. I really happy to see this because it's one of my favorite sort of gem, little diamond in the rough sort of buildings. I think people don't always appreciate all the details. So I'm in support of the restoration of the door as long as the final details are reviewed with staff prior to finalization once it's exposed. I would agree with Ms. Anderson's comments of the window color. So I'd ask you to explore other colors if we can get an off-white or another color that would be historically correct beyond white. And I would think material will determine how far we can go.
I agree.
So I would align with staff's recommendation or locals I'll change it a little bit from the locals of fiberglass or, higher material to give you that flexibility. But bringing those final colors back to staff along with the final building colors for staff, final approval. And then the muttons, I think Mr. Sandberry just, stated it well that, if they're not needed, if they weren't historically appropriate, then just leave them out because then you are historically appropriate and saves you a little bit of money there. So overall, in support of the project. Other questions and comments? Someone like to make a motion? Mr. Sandberry?
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve as presented. With the recommendation or the requirement that there's no muttons. Recommendation. Unless there's any photographic evidence or historic evidence to prove muttons.
Can I ask the owner if they're okay with that? Or is
Let's
it too
finish
late?
our motion
Okay.
and then you can.
Okay.
So you stated about the muttons colors. Can I recommend
Yes.
adding, final colors of
Approved
the
by
building
staff.
and the windows to be submitted to staff
Absolutely.
for review and approval?
Any windows, fiberglass or better materials.
All right, so we have a motion on the table. Do we have a second? Ms. Anderson? Are you seconding or you have questions? Okay, so we have a motion on the table. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Lozier? All right, further discussion?
Yes, regarding the color.
Final colors to be for windows and walls to be brought to staff
Okay.
for review and approval.
Thank you.
And then, yes, if you'd like to ask your owner for
Yeah,
feedback.
Nick, you're privy to this. Are you okay with the no divided lights, no muttons in the windows?
Oh yeah, definitely. I thought it was appropriate, but now that it was explained for that area, what's appropriate? Yeah, we're good with it.
Excellent. Any further discussion? No, not seeing any. Then Mr. Musson, please call roll.
Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Dulick? Yes. Mr. Lozier?
Yes.
Director Mersman?
Abstain.
Ms. Saban,
Yes.
Mr. Sandberry,
Yes.
Mr. Trassick,
Yes.
Dr. Williams,
Yes.
and Ms. Trott.
Yes.
Madam Chair, the motion passes by a vote of 8-0 with one abstention.
All right, congratulations.
Way
We
to
look
go.
forward to seeing your project move forward.
Great, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. That concludes our certificates of appropriateness. We'll now move on to our schematic plan reviews. We'd like to welcome our first applicants to come forward and tell us your name and then tell us about your project. Good morning. Good morning. Oh, excellent.
I just want to turn on your microphones. Little button on the front.
The push button.
Yes, push button.
Want to advance through the slides, you can use the
This
clicker.
is-
It's the button on the right. There's a bit of a delay, so.
And if you don't want to, just ask Jessica to advance the slides.
Okay.
I have a little bit of a tremor, so I might go through the whole thing.
Whatever he says.
If you don't mind.
All right, well, welcome. Could you just tell us your names before you start?
Yes, my name is Jim Harris.
I'm Hansuk Harris from
My
Korean
wife.
Association.
And we have Dr. Hong present via the internet.
Online.
Welcome. Dr. Wong.
So what we have here today is the Korean Association of Greater Cleveland Sejong Garden for the Cleveland Cultural Garden. And this is a rendering of what the garden will look like. I will say we've had one suggestion since it was approved by the Cultural Garden, which I do have to admit I highly support, is the trees in the front, the green trees in the front, which are pines. We don't think those should go in because they obstruct the view from the road. It's a safety issue. So we don't want somebody to be pulled off the sidewalk back behind the trees. So we're not going to put those in, but the rest of the landscaping is as it's shown. Originally, there was going to be a bit of a fence there as well, but we took that out for the same reason. The garden is a collective, will be a collective realization of the Korean Association and their garden committee. Dr. Hong, my wife, and myself are all on the board and in the garden committee, but we are not the only members. There's probably about 10 or 11 on the garden committee. So this was a collaborative effort. The garden will be built by TAB Property Enhancements. It will be done professionally. And if you're wondering why I'm the one speaking here, my job right now, I work for the Housing Authority of the City of Pittsburgh, and we build communities as well as individual buildings for low-income public housing. So I have a considerable background in the construction and the landscaping for properties within a city. So I offered to help the Korean Association build this garden. And we're using TAB, which is a professional landscaping firm that will do this. The focal point is King Sejong, who is widely recognized in the Korean community as the greatest leader in the history of Korea. He ruled from about 1418 to 1450. So this was prior to the country being divided. And there will be about 8 to 10 other individuals recognized on the two wings of the garden. The majority of them also were in Korea prior to the country being divided. The king will have a 4-ton marble statue, which is in the center, the two circles, and then the concentric squares. the King statue will be located there. It's made of Korean marble, or will be made of Korean marble, will be shipped from Korea to the garden here in Cleveland. So it's not something that we're trying to keep this as much authentic as we can. So the president bid this out in Korea to have a Korean artist create it in Korean marble. The statue will also have a sample of the Hangul.
Hangul,
Now,
which
of
is
course,
Korean language. Korean language we call Hangul. Yeah,
If
he
you-
created it. Yeah.
If you look to the back of the brochure, the last 2 pages, there's a sample of the language there, and there'll be a plaque underneath the king showing the language. He's the one that created this, and it's one of the reasons why he is being honored in this park. He had quite a few other accomplishments, this is very similar to what the statue will look like, but it will be done in marble. The king will be flanked by the Rose of Sharon flowers, which is the national flower of Korea, and it will be amply used throughout the park. We have been very careful with the vegetation to try to keep it with Korean roots, but not an invasive species. So there were some things that we've eliminated that were suggested because they would be considered invasive. So we've tried to use the local vegetation, local trees, that type of thing that you'd also find in Korea. So we're being very careful with that. As I said, the wings of the garden will recognize the right and the left. We have 9 people that we'd like to recognize. So there are 4 on each. We haven't quite figured out how to do the 9th one yet, but it will be on approximately a 5-foot pedestal with a bronze plaque. And there will be a picture of each individual. And then listing of the accomplishments. Most of them are artists, have cultural significance, or were leaders prior to the division of Korea. I think there's one who was a Nobel Prize winner. Are we still doing that one?
We have 2 Nobel Prize, but yeah, the one deceased, maybe, but the one, no, newest one is she's still alive. This is a Nobel Prize 2 years ago. So we still debating, the one could have passed one, could have down the road. He was peacemaker, so we still debating that part, but yeah.
We're trying to be very careful of any conflict with North and South Korea. So, but most of it just naturally falls prior to the division. The flag itself is one that was prior to the division of the Koreas, so it represents both. The design encompasses the past, the present, and the future, with most of the individuals from the past. The garden itself represents the present, and the future is a secret. It's something that is not in any of the other cultural gardens, but it is clearly shown on the schematic and on the information I gave you. But I'll leave it to you to figure out what it is.
Can we read it?
We will disclose it when the garden is opened. And but it's designed to, most of these gardens, let's be frank. You build them, you have the opening, maybe people show up for a couple of months and they don't come back. Maybe they come back for One World Day, they come back for Korean Independence Day, maybe the 4th of July, but usually the garden is not used for anything else. This garden has something that will draw particularly the ladies, we've noticed, that have immigrated here, plus the students from Korea. And this will draw them back again and again and again, particularly during the summer months. And that's all the clues I'm going to give, but it is there, and I've given you all the information. The only ones that I know of that know what it is are the architect, myself, and one other individual. I don't think my wife knows. So also the language will be prominently displayed and encouraged for people to learn the Korean language in the written form. Let's talk cost a minute. It's a smaller project. It's about 600,000 estimated. And the amount, at least half of it, is primarily due to 3 items. The pavers that we're going to use, and I'm the one that picked the pavers as opposed to cement, because if there's an injury to the garden itself, you can promptly switch out a paver as opposed to having to pour cement. And I know some of the other gardens that are aging are having to replace pieces, and we're targeting the quality of the materials. So about, as I said, about 300,000 of it are in 3 primary areas. The pavers are about 212,000. 55,000 will go to the bronze plaques, which are actually a composite, so that we don't get people taking the plaques to recycle them. And but they look like a bronze plaque. And also the king statue, which will run about $50,000, and that includes the shipment. So we respectfully request your approval to proceed. And as I said, when we're done, there will be a secret that will be revealed on the garden. That we put up there the king statue size, and this slide illustrates the lower wall. There'll be basically benches so that people can sit there during performances, and also to use it for the reason that I alluded to. Can we go, is there one more slide, I think, to this? Is that the last slide? I'm sorry?
Slide back there.
The next, is there one more after this? Yes, this is the breakdown of the cost. There will be electrical lighting at the foot level. There will be plumbing to one spigot. That's primarily so that we can clean it if it gets dirty or something of that nature. The Russian garden right next to us has one, and they use it periodically. And there will be electrical outlets to plug in for microphones and amplification during One World Day and things of that nature. That says 504,000, but that does not include the King statue and some of the things that are being done by another contractor to bring in the, oh, it doesn't have the plaques. So that's where the $100,000 difference is. Are there any questions?
Right. Well, thank you for the presentation. Before we get to our questions, we would like to hear from the Cultural Gardens Design Review Committee.
Yes, thank you. This is Tom Turkley. I'm the Executive Director of the Cleveland Cultural Gardens Federation. Yes, we have reviewed this project. Yes, our first review was about a year ago. We had some comments and suggestions for changes. They respectfully came back to us. And we approved this, I believe, in January of this year. So we're fully in support of the overall schematic design. As he had mentioned, one of the issues was the landscaping that was proposed to be in front to be removed, mainly for safety, and it just blocked the overall view. But the board is fully behind the schematic design as proposed. We're really excited. I think being that this would be almost one of the first gardens you'll see coming off of the freeway on the northern end of the chain of gardens, they are going to be the first one on the west side. So we believe this is going to be a great addition to the cultural gardens. So the board is in fully support.
Excellent, thank you. And Landmark staff recommendation?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Staff is always excited to see new additions to the gem that are Cleveland Cultural Gardens. This was previously approved almost exactly 13 years before as case 13-018 on March 28th, 2013. It's, similar enough plan. We're seeing it conceptually today. So there's no formal approval. I think just feedback from this body, and then as the individual pieces are ready to move forward with the final details, those will get submitted and those will obtain final approval. But staff, thinks it's a very, very handsome garden and looks forward to seeing it come to fruition.
Excellent, thank you. Then we will open up the floor to the commission for questions and comments. Mr. Lozier?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to say just how exciting this proposal is. As noted, this is going to be one of the first gardens that you see coming from the north, and I really appreciate sort of the design thoughtfulness and all of sort of the background. Everything has a meaning, and the future. I'm excited to hear about what the component is that alludes to the future when this opens. I'm really excited by this one. I think this is a really great and fantastic proposal. One of the things so you mentioned removing the evergreen trees as part of the proposal moving forward, and I completely understand and appreciate the reasoning behind that. One of the things that you might want to consider, just thinking about sort of the year-round aesthetics of the garden, and one of the nice things about having an evergreen. Something that's evergreen is it provides a little bit more structure and liveliness to a landscape. While maybe not going with like tall trees, maybe consider other evergreen, lower growing shrubs that still give you that winter interest, but aren't something that's going to be a safety concern. Just a thought. And, I really appreciate, you hearkening back to, plantings that are sort of rooted in Korea. And again, I don't know exactly all of, what those opportunities are, but if there's something, that might be something worth considering. Other than that, I think this is a really exciting, really great proposal. So
Thank you. Thank you so much, Deb. Very excited, but I've been with this association since I moved to Korea, to Cleveland, and then finally, I, asked my husband to join, so he's helping. I didn't. Yeah, there's some tremendous, effort in it, but looking forward, we're moving to it, so it will be done. Hopefully. That's this fall.
This was, again, this was a collaborative effort. This wasn't me. Okay, I just was able to get an architect to put this together and get costs, that type of thing. But this was the Korean Association and their committee, which was awesome. So, I do want to point out one more thing. The cultural garden had some concern about the existing trees. And in this slide, you see in yellow where the existing trees are. We are not removing any of them. All the historic trees stay. I will say, I personally, and I am not, is it an arborist? There's a tree next to the king statue almost right off his left side. As you're looking, it'd be the right side. The tree, I think, is in bad shape. We are going to try to give it leeway, but I'm going to talk to the cultural garden. I meant to talk to him before this about having somebody look at that tree, but we're not going to remove it.
Sure. No, that's great feedback. We appreciate that. Other questions and comments from the commission? Mr. Samberry?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think this is a great design. I think it's a very, stately garden that's going to be, the first one you see when you come down the MLK. My only question is the statue's up. It's elevated at 2 steps, and then the plaque is on the pedestal. Is there any design for handicap accessibility to get up to that statue? Or is the plaque going to be large enough that somebody could read it, from the ground level?
Yes, the plaque will be at a ground level. The raising, most of the statues in the garden are on some kind of pedestal. Because of the weight of the statue, we'll have to have an engineer give us the specifications for that pedestal, but it's more to keep the pedestal level and the statue level and in place than it is for somebody to walk up to it.
Okay.
But yes, the whole garden is level and should be handicap accessible, will be handicap accessible.
Okay. Thank you.
Excellent. Ms. Anderson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. A beautiful, beautiful presentation. Thank you. Beautiful presentation, so well thought out. I think that people will be able to spend a lot of time here and really dive into a lot of interesting aspects of Korean culture. And I like the symmetry. I'm really excited that you are having a Korean artist produce this statue in marble, in Korean marble. That's a wonderful addition. I think my only concern is the amount of hardscape. It seems like there is a good deal of hardscape, and I'm not sure if there are going to be activities where you need that much hardscape, but that is my only reservation. Otherwise, I really love this design. I really think it's going to be an exceptional addition to the cultural gardens.
With regard to the area that you mentioned,
Yeah, the amount of pavers and
typically, if you've attended Korean celebrations, they have quite a few Taekwondo demonstrations. They have bands, Korean bands. They have dancers. So that's why the area is, and then there's benches so that people can sit and watch the activities. And then also back to the ADA, some of the cultural gardens that are there, while they're beautiful, they were built before ADA, and it's very difficult to get somebody's wheelchair into them, so they have to participate from the sidewalk. We wanted this to be open so anybody can get in. So it was a number of things that went into that consideration.
Well, I echo everything that everyone has said. I'm very excited about this one and looking forward to it because it is so visible and the thought that you've put into it. I was just sidebarring with Mr. Musson. I think this is so close to actually being able to apply for our final approval for a certificate of appropriateness. I think the only thing that's lacking here are just some of the details, like your base detail for mounting your statues, supplying a detail of that, your paver detail or material, supplying that to us to understand what material that is, along with just a landscaping. You actually do chart. You actually call out everything there. So I think it's really just those two, minor things. But then we'd be ready to do final approval. But overall, I am in full support of the design and appreciate the thoughtfulness you put into it, and looking forward to it. Other, of course, any other questions and comments from the commission? Okay, so this is schematic design approval, so there's not a vote today, but do you feel you've received enough feedback to finalize those details we talked about and come back in the near future for your final approval?
Yes, I do have, I would also point out that we didn't give you the specifications on the pillar for the plaque. And we're still bidding that, but everything else, I think we're ready to go on. So,
Okay, well, excellent. I know the gardens, along with, our staff would like to see those, and we're really looking forward to that, and then seeing this start construction, hopefully in the next year.
thank you very much.
Excellent. All right, thank you. And home goes Dan. All right, thank you. Have a great day. Welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
We wanted to be official.
Yes, no, we appreciate that. We'll just announce it for our records that this is our final schematic plan review for Trinity Cathedral, located at 2230 Euclid Avenue, the renovation. You could just state your names for our record, and then we'd love to hear about your project.
Hi, my name is BJ Owens, and I'm the Dean of Trinity Cathedral.
I'm Cynthia Reese. I'm the senior warden at Trinity Cathedral.
My name's Carter Edmond. I'm the Director of Design for Maurice Brothers Design Build Group, and I'm the architect for this project.
Excellent. Welcome.
And
Feel
we're
free to-
controlling
to
it.
go ahead.
Oh,
Tell us
okay.
about your project.
Shall I test?
And there's a little bit of a delay, so. Or a lot of a delay.
We like to call it a dramatic pause, just because,
I know how to build, pause into a comment, so. Thank you so much for allowing us to come before you once again. Again, my name is BJ. I'm been serving as the Dean of Trinity. I'm in my 8th year, just started that. And we are describing what is a core element of a campaign that we're beginning. And we have discovered not only architectural elements, but also a whole lot of our own history through this process. So we're kind of on a journey, and we're going to bring on it a little bit. I'm going to start by asking Cynthia to go through what our value proposition is for the renovation of Cathedral Hall.
Thank you very much. I appreciate this opportunity for us to make this presentation. We started this project, we kind of stumbled into it in a way, and Maurice Brothers Construction has been essential to our planning and our conceptualization of how we approach the restoration of our beautiful cathedral. So this is the value proposition that we collaboratively developed, and it's been about 2 years in the making. So we seek to renew the beauty and functionality of Cathedral Hall, making it into a welcoming, accessible space that is used and loved by the congregation and community. We want to create a civic beacon of Christian compassion and service in the city, and we want to respect the history, architecture, and integrity of Cathedral Hall. And we want to work together as one team toward a common vision and do this while making wise, responsible choices with respect to budget, schedule, and quality.
So Trinity Cathedral is, depending on who you ask, the oldest worshiping community in the city of Cleveland. Today, you're asking us, so let's go with that answer. But we think the history generally bears that out. We've been around since 1816. And we're not talking about the cathedral itself. We're talking about what is essentially the Great Hall. And as we look within it, you can tell that it is a space of historical value. What we stumbled into, this is a space that has not really gotten a lot of TLC in about 65 years or so. Though other areas of our campus have been renovated. And we realize that we are missing out on a really core part of our space, not only as a place for us to gather, but for us to serve the wider community and our diocese. We are the Cathedral Church of the Episcopal Diocese of Ohio. There, of course, is our location. And you can imagine that we're right there on Euclid Avenue, and we're certainly an expression of who lived on Euclid Avenue 100 or so years ago in terms of the architecture that was created, and really the networks that that allowed our community to thrive. And this process has helped us to learn more of our history of who built the church, who planted the gardens, and how do we really stay connected to that history in as living way as possible, while also being who we are today. Here we have an overall picture of the campus, the cathedral, of course, in the upper left. To the right, you have Trinity Commons. That's actually, upper right is not new space. That, what's the name of that was originally? It was a furniture warehouse that became diocesan property, but to the lower right, Trinity Commons was built in 2001 as a way of being a community-facing expression of the shared ministry of the Diocese of Ohio and Trinity Cathedral. To the south, you have Mather Hall, and then, of course, to the Vortimer Brooks. Vortimer Brooks was.
So I would just should say we have a full-time on-staff architecture historian who's assigned to this project. She's not able to be here in person, but she is listening on WebEx. So if there's any particular historical questions that come up, she's available.
Yes, and we're going to be having Sharon, our historian, and Carter at a Trinity Sunday Forum in a couple weeks. Our congregation eats this stuff up. So we love the history. So Cathedral Hall in the lower left is really what we're talking about here. That once again is our principal gathering space, or certainly was generations before, but it just isn't as usable right now between climate control and all the things that make a space, valuable for gatherings, is what we're going to be working on, while also having a keen attention to connecting to Charles Schweinfurth's original vision for the space. And what is possible today. So here we have, of course, where you see Parish House, that is, we're looking at some careful kitchen work. And restoring something that can really serve. A kitchen is very much the heart of a congregation in many ways. And we know that at Trinity, not only do we need to have the kitchen that works for us, we need spaces and pathways that help us to get from one point of the campus to another. And I'm learning that desire paths and how we create those spaces has a lot to do with how it's used and how it lives to the fullness of what it's supposed to be. There she is. That's the cathedral. Once again, to the top, nothing, in the center of the cathedral, we're not touching that in this project, though we will separately, we are doing a significant stained glass restoration, because our glass is 116 years old. To the right, up to the right, you have you have Cathedral Hall, and behind that, the cathedral, the Mather Garden, which we're not touching in this project, but we are looking at the exterior of it, how we're really thinking intentionally about how people approach this space, not only from inside, but coming from outside. And we really want to recognize Trinity as a kind of front porch for the community, and certainly some of the only green space in that particular part of the neighborhood, part of downtown. How do we give people a reason to flow from that green space into Cathedral Hall, and how do we create gathering space so that what happens within Cathedral Hall can continue outside, what we would say among God's creation. We have the, of course, down to Cathedral Hall. To the left is where the cathedral itself is. some green space that we are looking at for safety and security reasons, having some kind of a fence. But obviously, we're going to be talking to you all about making sure that what is done is appropriate. And then, of course, you have a cloister that was not originally enclosed. You're going to be hearing a little bit about some of the work that has been done to this space over the last century for various reasons. Got a closer look. I know we talked about this a good bit last week. And that I think I'll turn it over to Carter at this point.
Thank you. So what I'm going to do is give you an overview of the project as a whole and the goals and the reasons for the project. And then we'll focus on the components of the project that we're really looking at here today. And I'm going to go back a little bit. And can we unmute Sharon Tursek?
Yeah, I just unmuted Carter.
Oh, you were able to do it? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the importance of Cathedral Hall to Trinity is that it really served as its pro-cathedral during the construction of Trinity Cathedral. And when that happened, and when the old Trinity Church, where the congregation had been meeting, closed or was sold, I should say, it necessitated the vestry to do a very quick approval on an extension of what was the Perry Street Chapel. The Perry Street Chapel was enlarged, and Schweinfurth was the architect. We've got the drawings that are in the archive for Trinity. Trinity has been a fantastic steward of records through the years. So we know exactly what was added. We know how small it was and then how large it became. There were partition doors that opened up into Parish House at the ground level, so that Cathedral Hall space, which is what it became referred to after the enlargement, could accommodate all of the congregation, using the lower level of Parish House for overflow until the cathedral was constructed and completed. So really, for the until 1907, it was really home. And so we're really helping the congregation understand the space and re-fall in love with a space that has been otherwise underutilized.
Thank you. So just to clarify, the Parish House, the cloister, ambulatories, and Cathedral Hall all antedate the cathedral itself, but are also Charles Schweinfurth. And these older constructions are in a very robust, rusticated, Romanesque style, and other things that start with R, whereas, of course, the church is in a high Gothic style. So that's some of the architectural context.
A little cultural context.
Mhm.
If you said to anybody at Trinity Cathedral and asked them about what the Perry Street Chapel is, they would not have any idea what you're talking about. And they soon will. And the point is, this project is recovering so much of our history. Which of course leads to so many other things that we get to learn about ourselves and our connection to Cleveland. Of course, Maurice Brothers have been such great partners in this, but I just want to communicate the enthusiasm we have for discovering things about ourselves that this process is allowing us to do.
How many of you have been in Cathedral Hall at Trinity? Okay, a few. So you're all familiar with the cathedral, but and I had been to Trinity Cathedral many times myself, going back to, I think the first time was 1986 for a concert of Johann Sebastian Bach's 301st birthday, which I vividly remember. But I don't think I had ever been in Cathedral Hall itself prior to starting work on this. And although it's actually very close, it's also very hidden. If you've been in Cathedral Hall, you know what an extraordinary and beautiful hall it is, but it's really underutilized. And there are a number of reasons for that. One is simply the lack of appropriate HVAC. That's no air conditioning, for one thing. But also, if you go to Trinity Commons, you will enter off the parking lot to the upper right where that rotunda is. And then if you're going to the cathedral, you'll go straight across the top. But to wind your way around to get to Cathedral Hall is disorienting and uninviting. Right. That's one of the challenges to using Cathedral Hall, is just getting people there and getting people to know where it is. So lack of proper HVAC, difficulties in circulation. Also, the kitchen
doesn't work very well. Some of it's antiquated. It's doesn't serve the hall as it could, and it doesn't actually have a direct connection to the hall. So all of these things are back of house things that you won't really see significantly as a change in Cathedral Hall itself. In fact, we were very conscientious about doing an extremely light touch on Cathedral Hall itself, but to make Cathedral Hall more usable by enhancing all the things that support it. So we're going to be looking today at essentially components of this project. One is the fence that was mentioned. Two is the windows in the cloister area, which we'll look at. Three is the garden area to the south. And four is the garden vestibule, which we'll sort of be looking at those two together. So part of the idea of enhancing the circulation is to provide a gracious, inviting, and obvious exterior entrance to get from the parking lot directly to Cathedral Hall without winding your way through the whole campus. So those are the things that we'll be looking at today.
Very dramatic sometimes.
There we go. Just seeing this again, you see Cathedral Hall is off there to the right. The aerial view. So north is to the left in both of these. So that slot, that space between the cathedral itself and Cathedral Hall, that's we're calling that the cloister garden. It's essentially undeveloped, unlandscaped area. And it's essentially an attractive nuisance as it is. A lot of trash is left there. There are sort of nooks and places to hide. There are also area wells, which are hazardous. So the intent is to add an ornamental security fence along East 22nd, connecting between the cathedral and Cathedral Hall. We don't know what the exact character of that is going to be. It will be ornamental. It will comply with zoning requirements, which I believe is 6 feet here. And I'm just going to be very frank about this design decisions that still lay ahead of us because we are at schematic design today. Tony He gave us some really good comments at the Design Review Advisory Committee, including a phrase I wrote down, which is to think about being contemporary but compatible. And that's generally how we're approaching some of these interventions. So that fence along East 22nd will be sort of component one. So this is the view looking to the west in that cloister garden. You can see the sort of depth of it. And then to the right, you see that sort of ambulatory, which called the cloister, at the far end, and then the long south end of that. That cloister has these windows in it. It was originally all open air. There were no windows in that. When the cathedral was added and this became a passageway from the cathedral to Cathedral Hall, it was enclosed. So those windows obviously are not period, and they're a rather heavy, almost sort of Georgian, I don't know, looking window frame. We want to remove those and replace them with something as visually minimal and as much like not having glass in there as possible. So here's some views in that corridor passageway looking north and south, and you can see just how much of the natural light and the view is obscured by those windows. Ultimately, it's not part of this project, but ultimately some redevelopment of that garden we think is in the offing. So we want to make sure that there's a gracious view of that. It's also, as you can see, pretty dark and almost a little foreboding. There's, heavy timber construction above it, which is really cool and wonderful. But it would be nice to have a little bit more light coming in there. And we'll also be doing some interior lighting to enhance that as well. But the design intent generally is, like I said, removing these multi-pane windows and putting in something as minimal as possible. We were looking at either this rendering shows a wood framed double light, but single light of glass filling the whole area. It would either be a wood frame or possibly aluminum, which if you do that would be like an anodized bronze color, which reflects a lot of the color of the metalwork fixtures and hardware around the area. So that would be obviously visible from the outside. It's primarily for the inside, but it would be visible from the outside. So that's something that we're reviewing today. But I want to spend more time on the Cathedral Hall courtyard, the exterior area to the south, and we are some of the images you're going to see are from our landscape architect. We're working with MKSK landscape architects on this, so you'll see a combination of our architectural images and theirs. On the left, you see the full south elevation of Cathedral Hall, as much of it as you can see in one view. And you see there's a door there with steps. There originally was no door on the south facade of Cathedral Hall. It was just a series of tripartite windows in each structural bay between the buttresses. At some point, Sharon, I believe you said it was 64?
1964. Yes.
64. You want to just quickly tell about the Briggs Mansion donation and...
Yep. In 1964, there was a major renovation within Cathedral Hall. There was floor replacement, there was window replacement, the doors was added to the garden, and the doors were at the entrance were modified within Cathedral Hall at that east cloister. There was also a kitchen, small kitchen build within that space as well. The Briggs Mansion in Cleveland Heights, it was designed by Schweinfurth, and the Briggs family attended Trinity Cathedral. So in their parents' honor, the paneling and doors were donated to Trinity in hopes that they could be used as part of this renovation in the mid-1960s. Travis Gower Walsh was the architect. He also was a Trinity Cathedral parish member. And so they honored that request and installed paneling all throughout Cathedral Hall. They replaced the entrance doors at that cloister and installed doors and removed the windows that were at the garden. So those are the doors that one knows today and sees today, but doesn't realize that there's an underlayer or an older version of what existed.
So, so obviously, and you can kind of see here, but the doors are a late or maybe Renaissance Gothic style, which is obviously quite different from the Romanesque. They've been there a long time, so there is some sort of sense that they've grown some roots. I'm
sorry, sorry, Carter. I should have mentioned the Briggs Estate was designed by Schweinfurth, but it was in an English Tudor style, and so we have 3 different styles that are really occurring within Cathedral Hall. The original Gothic, the original Romanesque, and then we've got some Gothic influence or Gothic update when Schweinfurth did the Perry Street addition. And then we have this, like I said, the alterations mid-century. Okay, sorry.
Thank you. So there are some Briggs interventions that we were planning to keep, but this door we were planning to remove and keep the door. We're not going to demolish the door. We're planning to remove it and salvage it. I will say it was an interior door in its original in situ location, and it is, in spite of attempts to keep it in good repair, it has fared very badly as an exterior door, so it's in pretty bad shape. We are planning to remove it and repurpose that entrance. Unfortunately, when they put that door in, they increased the size of what was the window, and we're going to be doing a site tour with Tony. I think you're going on the site tour as well. So we'll see this. You can see where the jam was cut out and modified. So we haven't exactly grappled with how we're going to deal with that, but so we'll be extending the landing and creating a new vestibule, which we'll be looking at some conceptual designs for. So that area where there's sort of the ad hoc door would eventually become a primary entrance into Cathedral Hall. One of the challenges of doing that is between the Mather House or Mather Hall building to the south and Cathedral Hall is this narrow passageway, which is currently occupied by, did I get it? By a dumpster and a badly decayed fire escape. So this is where we want to, you're right now, if you were standing in that upper left picture, you're standing at the parking lot looking west as if you're going to walk toward the garden toward Cathedral Hall. I do want to take a minute to talk about Mather Hall, the building to the south, which is a landmark in its own right, which is owned by the church. It's currently vacant. It's been vacant for about 25 years, but the church has done a pretty good job of keep making, critical exterior repairs. So it's in pretty good shape. We don't know what the future of that building is. That's a separate study that the church plans to undertake. Potentially looking for a nonprofit partner or something that has to be compatible with the mission and values of the church, but also gives us a sustainable future life. There's a hall, and then there's the garden that goes with it, which also has the potential to be just a wonderful public exterior urban space. And between Sharon and our landscape architects at MKSK, we've found a lot of interesting historic information about that, which we will be coming back to you with when we come back to redevelop that whole garden space and hopefully Mather Hall itself. I bring this up because I want everyone to be aware that how sensitive the against the leadership and Maru's Brothers, as well as MKSK, are to Mather Hall. So this passageway, which currently, like I said, is the dumpster and the fire escape, is what we want to open up, landscape properly, and make into a gracious and obvious entry. Part of doing that will be the dumpster to another location, and part of that will be demolishing the fire escape. Whatever happens to Mather Hall, the fire escape will have to be removed. First of all, it's in bad shape and an attractive nuisance and a hazard as it is. Well, I'm not just using its condition kind of as an excuse to say, well, let's get rid of it. There are some architectural elements that may be worth salvaging, and to the extent that there are, we will certainly do that. But we know that we will not be having a fire escape on this building in the future. It will probably need a second stair, another means of egress, and so forth. But the intent is to remove this and create an open passageway from the outside of that boundary to the inside. There's some more details of that. The original intent was, so there's the area well below and basement access, which, not knowing how Mather Hall will be used in the future, we don't want to preemptively fill that in or anything. We had originally suggested putting a fence around that. At the Design Review Advisory Committee, was suggested that we, instead of doing a fence, we do like a subway grading over it that will be removable in the future. And we all thought that's a great idea. So that's the direction we intend to go for the opening to the basement. This is want to take a moment. If you're not really familiar with the garden, you should go and just check it out. It's a bit, I don't know, it's a bit overgrown. It's not up to date in a lot of ways. It's not what a contemporary garden might feel like. It definitely needs some love and care and rethinking. But the garden itself is not a landmark, but it's obviously part of the landmark district and has some historic merit in its own right, which we want to respect when we get to there. But, it's bounded on three sides by Cathedral Hall, Mather Hall, and the Hubble and Venice YMCA. It's this extraordinary little spot that just sort of gets forgotten right in the heart of the campus district. And we want to make sure that whatever the intervention we're doing along Cathedral Hall doesn't preclude good opportunities for the future of the main garden. So this is the current condition. So that door, that expansion door, is where the double arrow is. That's Cathedral Hall along the top. That little sort of apse-shaped sort of semi-hexagon is currently the coffee service room. So it's lined with FRP on the inside and stainless steel countertops. We want to return that to being a nice little sitting place, a little, quiet space for contemplation. We don't know exactly, but it's been previously labeled library, dean's office. It's obviously had a little bit more noble life than it has now. And it will have views out to the garden, which will be very nice. This is what you see there in orange and pink, believe it or not, is the actual paving plan as it is now. One of the challenges is that the axis of the garden, which is centralized to the space to the south, that was built before that door was added, is not aligned with the door, right? And there's sort of some potential outdoor rooms, but of course the access from the parking lot to the right is challenged by things like the fire escape, the dumpster, and so forth. And also there's a ramp there, which we need, and we can reconfigure and work with to improve the whole site. I will remind you, this is schematic design, so there's a lot of design decisions still to be made. And in fact, this is continuing to evolve rapidly, but this is essentially the concept here. So we're opening up that throat. This says sandstone paving. Maybe it's sandstone. We're looking at a lot of different materials, but there will be a paved accessible path from the parking lot all the way in. And then that raised plinth for the entry will be extended a little bit. We would include a ramp there, and we're looking at a couple of exterior rooms here to the west, and then to the north, just along Cathedral Hall there, between those two sort of anchors of the garden room and the entry vestibule, and also connecting to the axis of the north-south axis of the garden. And then there's an existing walk along Mather Hall that we anticipate we might connect to as well. This is just a blow up of the area to the left. So you can see there's a vestibule. You can see the two sets of doors, stairs down, ramp. There's a little bump out of Cathedral Hall to the left, which was originally where the organ pipe bellows were. There's no longer a functioning organ there, but it's pretty cool. And here's a view into the eastern half of it. There's that line across is a concept for an arch. We think some sort of, we don't know if it's this arch exactly, but some sort of demarcation of entry and welcome is warranted there. These are a couple of details in the making for the vestibule. I know it's a little hard to see, but the general idea, we want this vestibule to be really subservient to Cathedral Hall itself. We want it to be light. We want to make sure that it comes in under the eave and the dental moldings so that it doesn't interfere with those lines, and also doesn't interfere with the slate roof, and just technically it's also cleaner and easier. We're looking at a transparent glassy structure. This shows some largish wood, maybe glue lamp columns. We think we might be moving away to that toward a smaller steel column just to lighten the whole structure. But that's where we're at. We are looking at a butt glazed system. This shows a typical, like a Conair mullion with a butt glazed system in front of that. So you would see the mullions in this case, but we're also considering something that's mullionless, or is even more delicate. So this is the existing view from the inside on the left. From the outside on the right, it's a little hard to see, but you can kind of see the asymmetrical opening. And you can see here that this architectural artifact is certainly worthy of preserving, right? It needs to be carefully removed and preserved, and that is the intent. You can also see it's kind of on the left when that it doesn't quite fit between the cat head beams, but do a reloaded. This is probably the most conjectural thing here. We don't exactly know what these doors are going to be like. They will be wood and glass in some proportion. It is obviously a thick masonry wall, so that is going to have to find a place somewhere in that wall to sit. It's probably not quite as minimalist as this, but it will be more contemporary. It won't be replicating a historic style. We think there's maybe less glass. We don't want this. There needs to be some sun control on the south side here. So these views are from the landscape architect, and I will say this view makes it look like the glass is black glass or tinted glass. That is not the intent. It will be transparent glass. They, I think, really wanted us to focus on the landscape. But this gives you a sense of kind of the scale and proportion, some of the major planting locations. You know, we want to make sure that it's hardscape that's usable and, you know, can accommodate activities, but also we don't want to be too far away from touching nature. This would be the view from the parking lot. They're showing the fire escape still. We don't know if it's exactly, you know, a semicircular arch that says Trinity, but just the notion that there's some spatial demarcation there. Here's another view of the vestibule, the roof and fascia, and there will be an integral gutter. The roof and fascia will be copper, natural copper to patinate over time, just as some of the details of Cathedral Commons are. So some plantings around that little outdoor room. Here's just a closer view of that, trying very much to keep it simple and not obscure the building behind any more than is absolutely necessary. A little bit turned around view from the west. And that's all we have. So happy to answer any questions, hear any thoughts or suggestions, and Sharon's on the line too if we have any specific historic questions.
All right, thank you for the presentation, all of you. Appreciate it. Before we get to our questions, we will start with the Design Review Advisory Committee recommendations.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This went before the Greater Downtown Historic Design Review Advisory Committee on March 18th, 2026. There's a lot of discussion about ensuring that the additions are contemporary and subservient to the historic building, as Carter mentioned, sort of that contemporary but compatible idea. There was a recommendation to kind of explore outboard or inboarding the glazing options for the cloister so that, you know, it'd still appear open, but you wouldn't be left with that awkward space between, you know, the outer extent of the column capitals and the inner column. So that was something that they thought needed exploring. And then they just sort of cautioned about being careful with the new garden materials and ensuring that they complemented the Schweinfurth design. I mean, I think overall enthusiasm and support for the project to the point that they wanted to have a site visit so they could check it all out in person and discuss it further. So
I want to say we are exploring the particularly the inboard option for the cloister windows. We don't know yet, but
yeah,
like it in theory.
Yeah, thanks.
Good. Okay. And Landmark staff recommendation?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So staff really had fun discussing this project. It's kind of an interesting one where there's elements of the original building, there's elements of older, depends on when they were put there, kind of parts, and then mid-century intrusions into it, as well as needing to have modern updates for buildings for access and for needs for our current uses. And so we're kind of discussing it in staff, the four of us, as like more of a philosophical question of, you know, replacing to the standards for rehabilitation, which are fairly broad, that aren't as stringent as like restoration or preservation, or bringing it back to Schweinfurth original design intent, looking at like restoration versus rehabilitation. And so it was really kind of an interesting project because we do run into this every day, every time we meet with buildings that we need to have modern vestibules, we need to have ramps and accessibility in buildings that were built for aesthetics and that maybe didn't add that in. So we're kind of very interested to hear the discussion from the commission as well. Overall, we're kind of in agreement with the local and their cloister windows recommendation to kind of see how it interacts with those columns there to really fit with the architecture that's there and celebrate it. And we look forward to seeing more of the details as it evolves. It's a great example of buildings that evolve over time while still keeping the same use, relative use, and which are always great to see, just that continuation over decades and centuries as we continue to celebrate our architecture in Cleveland.
Excellent. Thank you for that feedback. We will then open up the floor to the commission for questions and comments. I guess I'll start us off. This is a wonderful to see come forward. I was actually had the honor to be part of the original renovation and additions at the entry and for the entire campus and the introduction of the geothermal, blah, 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 all of that. So it always pains me that nothing was done with this building because it was so beautiful and just has so much potential. But obviously funds are always limited and it was not part of that plan. So I'm very excited to see it come back. I do appreciate and, thoughtfulness on the vestibule and the need for that. And, do sort of, align with some of the feedback that was giving, just really trying to coordinate the materials and, which I think you've done. Is it the bronze material or is it wood? I think those little details in schematic, I'm aligned with it. The final materials may, impact my final thought of it, but in concept and schematics, I'm aligned with, and understand the need for the vestibule and especially to allow people that accessibility to this space because it's always been this little hidden area that nobody knows how to get to. So I do like that a lot. And I do, obviously the ramp is needed for the use and your clientele to using it is really, needs that. So I think you've done a good job, providing that balance of the modern needs and the historic, respecting the historic structures, landscaping along, just maybe the edges of the ramp to continue to, hide it just might be nice. I do like the arch at the parking lot, or I shouldn't say the arch, the statement at the parking lot to really announce that this is an extension of the campus versus your open part of the campus versus closed off because it does feel closed off, that right now. Is it the arch or not? I don't know. I would just you'd love you to look at, historical examples like, Central Park, Europe, all of those,
So interestingly, Sharon found a photograph of old Trinity, so Trinity on Superior Avenue before they moved to this site. And it's surrounded by a wrought iron fence. And then there's this arch and it has a sort of OG, highly decorative, sort of American eclectic, Gothic-esque. Not that we would replicate that, but it was kind of interesting to see that how they did that as a placemaking statement there. Obviously, we'll do it in an appropriate way, but it was just kind of cool to see that.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think pulling that forward just to really help people understand the history of this organization and how many places it has, how it's progressed, but stayed true to itself and together as strong as it is would be really, I think great and provide a nice statement here, to sort of lean back, but now that you're working or looking at this space. I would agree with staff and locals about the cloister windows, just, inboard or outboard, I think would be nice because I think you're going to get more visibility, but you're still going to have that sort of compromise on either side. So just, I think interior would be nice just because from the exterior, it looks like you've opened them back up. So I do agree with that. And then the only thing is, with Mather Hall and the removal of that fire escape is just, making sure that that building can stand on its own without it. The addition of a fire stairs seems appropriate, but just knowing interior outboard, in the future would be helpful to just, understand that we're not compromising that structure to improve this area.
Right. So I, in my mind, I like to think of removing that fire escape as the first step in the restoration and new life of Mather Hall. So.
And I agree. And just because of, sort of having years on this area of the property, always wondering what that could be. And
Mhm.
just, it's nice to see that there is thought to continue that on. Just making sure that removal doesn't compromise that, just even a quick sketch of how it could be added
Mhm.
so that we all feel
Mhm,
good
mhm.
that, it really can, improve your campus and continue the life of that building.
I'm grateful that you have a sense of the cohesiveness of that timeline, that we do connect to that project 25 years ago to
Mhm.
where we are now, and we realize we have steps to go.
And absolutely, and I appreciate that you've kept this on your timeline of always, staying focused that this is next, and
Mhm.
next is depends what year you're talking about, but it's still
Next is
next. So
subjective, that's right.
that's right. Interpretation of timelines. But just making sure that when whatever is done now, there is a plan to help that building whenever that next is for the Mather Hall. We've already sort of thought through that, so we're not compromising it. And so forth. So, but overall, in full support of the project. Besides that, I don't really have much, comments. Mr. Dulick?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hats off to Trinity Cathedral for just the history of your stewardship alone, I think, is worthy of celebration. Because I think it very much reflects the harmony between your mission and the kind of architectural legacy that you have, which is it's complex, it's layered, it's rich. I think it's also very clear in that kind of wonderful irony that I think is embedded within the very notion of the Trinity, if you will. I don't want to go too far down there, but I want to just commend the sensibility that is clearly rooted both in the sense of mission, but also I think in the sense of the architecture you've got. I mean, 25 years has gone by since the creation of the Commons, which is a major statement of your place in not only the community, but the history of your mission. I'm really interested in the evolution of the space we're looking at right now. I think that that space, because that's it, right? I mean, that is the next logical step in the continuity of even the simple duality of how most people may get here, and yet where the real symbolic presence is on Euclid. So this, not unlike this building, I suppose, how most people get certainly into what I think is a wonderful vision. It's a great space, the hall, and that it's going to be utilized more, I think is another real gift to all of us as a city and as a community. I'm really interested to see how this evolves with the removal of that fire escape, because I don't know, how old is the fire escape original to Mather Hall, through the chair to the?
It is not. You can see at the roof line.
Okay.
We've taken drone photos. It was a later addition. At one point, the back of Parish House also had a fire escape. That was removed during the work
Okay.
for treatments.
Thank you. Yeah, I was very curious about that, and it seemed like it was an addition. Yeah, I think there's actually, in terms of just to comment quickly on the sensibility and the materiality, I guess, imagining that gone or seeing that gone, I think will be it'll be a game changer for how I think we can even respond to what that space becomes. I'm really excited about the fact that space will finally have a scale to it. And actually the little garden space too, I think has a wonderful potential, and, as part of a future project. But I think there's something about that I think all fits within this concept of working with all these historical layers architecturally as a reflection of the layers of the life of Trinity. And I guess I gotta say, I've come down on the side of the pushing more towards that contemporary. So I really want to commend that kind of notion, because I think this is a chance to add that layer. And yet I think there's a hint in something like when they added this fire escape, there's some clues there, I think, both in terms of materiality and not so much literal expression, but there's kind of there's a fineness and an elegance and a light-handedness. So embodied in the use of the fact that it was metal, but it wasn't metal that had a sense of hardy substance, but that it really was the resolution of those forces into something that was lacier. I think
So
there's
I
an
don't wanna-
opportunity there.
I don't want to go from the sublime to the absurd here, but you're making me think of Villa Le Duc and the Bibliothèque Nationale and these, this use of the metal capabilities of that time. Those arches at the Bibliothèque Nationale and those columns are extremely thin, right?
Exactly.
Because because they're looking at steel the way the medieval stonemason looked at stone, right?
Right on. Because I think that there's a way to be contemporary. I even think of something as far from this as Penn Station, and thinking about the passage from that which was very much about mass and that which was very much about light and glass and steel. So
Talking about the old one, right?
the old one.
Okay,
Penn
all right,
Station.
yeah.
Oh yeah, not the one through which we scuttle like a rat. No, no.
You're Robert.
And like everything else, God and the devil are duking it out in the details, and that's fine. I think this is a great example of the sensibility that everyone involved is bringing to this that really does that. So that's kind of what I would say about the vestibule, and even something.
Fascinating.
I mean, there's a lot of ghosts here, right? And I mean that in a really positive sense, holy or otherwise.
I think I'm getting my sermon for Sunday, so keep going.
You're welcome to it if it's of value to you. Thank you. But I think that it really is a chance, even in whatever the decision is to relate to those columns and piers, same sensibility. But I also think I wouldn't mind, I don't even know if it's a butt glazed joint. I don't know if it is a thin piece of metal or whatever, but even the memory, yeah, they're clunky and they're wood and all those things. There's something about those tripartite windows in terms of this weird mix. I want that line. I want those three pieces somehow to come through. But again, in this elegant, refined, minimal and yet rich kind of way. The only thing I'd say, and my apologies for going on too long, because I'm really excited about this, and I think this is a wonderful project. Always admired this complex. So, but one final again is I think the other piece that comes in that looks a little out of place to me is, and it's always tough with accessibility ramps. They're really important. The more horizontal, even if it comes out as a knee wall, the more you can have the horizontal as the face of that ramp and keep that horizontality and let the handrail really be just that little sloped accenting. The more that, within budget, obviously, the more that you can integrate that or make it part of a sloped landscape, the better.
So I was having an interesting conversation with Dave Miano last night about that, not horizontality per se, but we were starting to look at the vestibule, the plinth, and the ramp, and he was saying, and he's a sort of a philosopher, architect.
Oh yeah.
Weirdo, genius.
All true.
Yeah, whom I admire to no end. He was saying, what if we think of this not as an addition to the building, but as a garden object, right? And so we started thinking about, well, how do plants relate to this? What if the ramp has and I apologize, they haven't heard this yet. What if it has like a plant? We were talking about what's the face of that ramp, right?
Yeah.
Because there was a suggestion that it's cast stone, and I don't know. Yeah, maybe can it be a very fine concrete with some reveals or something? What if it's a planter, right? What if
metal?
Or what if the planter has a copper rim that's that day? Yeah, I don't know. Right. These are all just things floating around right now. But to what you're saying, I'm just saying yes.
I think I appreciate what you're saying about the nuance of the architectural history, because it makes me think there's more options, and I'm not an architect, right? But there's a lot more to it than what's Gothic or it's Romanesque. I mean, I'm thinking about the chandeliers that are within the cathedral itself that are just immensely creative and beyond just a simple woof Gothic, right? There's so much to it and so many kind of places of expression throughout the cathedral that even what we're talking about here can be connecting to things that you're not even seeing, but with your first look at because It's within the record, within the space itself.
So you're familiar with the pendant lights in Cathedral Hall, which were made by Rose Ironworks. So again, they're Gothic. They're not Gothic. They're Rose Ironworks.
Right.
You know, so I'm going to be restoring those. You know, as is so this is another one of those palimpsests that we're drawing on.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. Thanks for the comments for now. Yeah, more metal. Keep it elegant. Keep it classy. Even going into those doors, like I don't know where the wood ends and the metal begins. But if you're going to take out that former insertion from the home and find an appropriate home for it, like what that interface becomes really like. And I think that garden object idea, like actually bringing that into the interface of where the wood goes to the metal vestibule could be a really fascinating study. And I'm going to state my case for the metal here, just to put it in literally material terms. So anyways, thank you. Really enthusiastically supportive of this whole thing. And, good luck with your SHRM.
Thank you.
Mr. Larcher?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't know how I follow that.
You can do it.
Other than to say, I really appreciate, everything that Mr. Julich had said. And I'm in alignment also with his statements and the eloquency in which he, has stated that. One of the things that strikes me about this, and this was something that was brought up by Sharon too, is the history of this complex and how it's changed over time. And as part of this particular project is how you're announcing that to the congregation and to the public and really honoring that legacy and sharing it in a meaningful way. Not just by bringing people to actually activate the space, but under an understanding of that history. And I appreciate everything that's been presented as part of this. But part of me also thinks some of those later additions are also part of that history. And if those get removed or changed, how does that change the narrative, or how does that impact the narrative of this really important, really amazing space into the future? So, while I understand and appreciate the idea of removing the still historic wood windows in the cloister, there's something interesting and elegant about those as insertions of themselves. It talks about the craftsmanship of the time when they were installed, and really provides, while not an amazing unobstructed view to the little sort of slot garden, there's something texturally interesting about them in and of themselves. So while I'm not advocating for you to keep them as part of the design, I think just thinking about that as part of the legacy of the building and of this campus. I mean, again, I think there's something really interesting and beautiful about that. Similarly, I'm really fascinated to hear the story about the repurposed interior entry doors that are now the exterior doors out into the garden space. Is similarly there too. Like that's a really unique quirk of the history of this particular building. So, while again I'm not advocating for you to keep them, but there is something interesting about them that they are there, and by adding a vestibule, those would then be protected, and they wouldn't be the exterior doors. Is there merit in and of themselves to sort of keeping that as part of the storyline and the history of this building, of this place? Just things to think about. I think that there's something really interesting about those quirks and those nuances that might be worth celebrating instead of reconsidering, let's say.
One response I think is I think you're exactly right. And to be a congregation, we, especially a historic one, there is a balance between encasing in amber what happened 120 years ago, and then recognizing that we had a vital congregation in the 1960s, and we had a vital congregation 20 years ago, and we have a vital congregation today, and each one adds something to it. So it's just, I would just say it is a delicate conversation that we are aware of, and Sharon and Carter do a really great job of kind of tempering that. Like, old is not gold, right? Sometimes there's obviously great value in the history, but history is a very layered thing, especially in a congregation.
Could not
And
agree.
I would like to make a comment if I could. The Briggs panels and doors, we are still retaining a Briggs door at the garden room. We want to make sure that we're peeling back some of the history, but not all of the history. We also want to be cognizant that, the Schweinfurth era and the Travis Gower Walsh era are recognized when you come into Cathedral Hall, so that those stories can be told. So there will still be elements for both of those renovations, as well as the extension by Schweinfurth, that people will be able to see. And part of this exercise has been understanding that history, but then educating others, like the docents in the church, to help them tell the story and continue the dialogue.
No, and I appreciate all of that. It was just the counterpoint to some of the other things. And again, I'm not advocating to keep everything and make it sort of sacrosanct, but I really appreciate just, again, the thought process behind all of this, and really, again, I'm as excited, I think, as my fellow colleagues on this commission. It's just going back just very sort of briefly to the fire escape question. I'm in agreement on all of that too, and I think that if and when this would come back as part of a formal proposal, I would assume that there would probably have to be there would have to be some sort of permit or something that was related directly to. Would there have to be a permit directly related to Mather Hall to be able to do any work on that building? And it gets more into like the nuances of the code of building and housing and the code and all that. Just something to, as you continue to investigate sort of the implementation strategy of all of this really exciting and incredible work, what potential challenges there might be to be able to fulfill all of these things sort of simultaneously or in phases. Because again, I'm in agreement that I would love to see, I appreciate the intricacy and the level of sort of finesse that fire escape has. It's well beyond its useful life, but there may be some code implications about removing that and not doing something within Mather Hall before. But again, because it's not being used today, there might be some leeway there. But anyway, really excited to see this moving forward and the progression of this when we see it next time. So thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I apologize. Yes, I'm going to probably hand it off to you because I do need to apologize, step out. So Dr. Williams?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to say quickly, as a Cleveland State University alumna ×4 and a former faculty member for 23 years, I am really happy to see this newest investment in Trinity Cathedral. The whole campus always felt like an extension of the university campus. And with opening up the garden space, especially a little more, and certainly Cathedral Hall, I am certain that CSU students will find the space and that they will learn to love the space as much as we learn to love the Brown Bag concerts on Wednesday in the nave itself. I didn't think I was going to love the nave as much when the pews were taken out. I think I love it even more now with the movable seating. So it's just a beautiful space. Spent a lot of time over there when the very Reverend Tracy Lind was dean. And I think I'm going to have a conversation with the new dean this afternoon But really looking forward to see where you go with this. We had performances in Cathedral Hall as musicians from Cleveland State. We had a small gathering in the art gallery at Trinity for in partnership with the Rock Hall. It was a gospel quartet performance. That year, I think we were honoring Sam Cooke. But so many incredible things have happened there, right there on Millionaires Row. Although, you know, Cleveland State is, or was, at least when I started, they're very working class commuter campus. There are a lot more students living downtown now. And I think this is going to be a wonderful addition to all the great things that Trinity has had to offer to students, especially over the last 30, 40 years or so. But thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Williams.
Director Merschman.
I'm going to be incredibly brief. Two thoughts, which you can take or leave as you want. I appreciate all of the conversation about the ramp within the garden and would be really interested in seeing when you come back about how some of that thoughtfulness can also be applied to the ramp that's in your new entryway, which is now a service, you know, it looks very much like service alley access. And I think that extends to that doorway there too, which is probably not somewhere that you want the public going into, but just the potential to make it look less like a service entrance, I think will make that gateway be so much more substantive. And to the, I think, Lancet detailing on the fire escapes, I can just imagine that members of your congregation or community gardens, or I think that there's some potential reuse of those things just to offer up. It's really wonderful, the detail that is there just on such a utilitarian piece. Not suggesting that it needs to be incorporated into this in any way, but it would be cool for those pieces of history to live on in backyards or gardens or other trellises somewhere else.
Ms. Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to try to be as brief as possible. I first want to, I think, congratulate you. You're affiliated with the Anglican Church of England?
Oh, yes, we have a new boss.
The new?
The Archbishop of Canterbury was installed yesterday, first female Archbishop.
Yes,
in
a woman.
Long history. Thank you. We were very, very excited about Bishop Sarah.
Very exciting, yes.
I'll be doing a session at the Sunday Forum on Bishop Sarah if you'd like to come by, 10 Sunday morning in Trinity.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. I think it's very exciting that we are bringing this space into making it a more lively and engaged with the community. I'm just trying to get down to what I need to say here. I think as far as the windows go, I think the open windows are the picture window, which I kind of understand you want to have that relationship with the garden, but I think it's maybe a little too modern. I agree with Mr. Lozier and even Mr. Dulick that maybe some sort of dividing there might be good. As far as the ramp and the extension, the vestibule, I think if maybe, I think other people have alluded to this, incorporating some of the metal framework kind of design from the fire escape might make it a little more interesting. I really have a real affinity for the doors, even though they were introduced later. They were designed by Schweinfurth. I think what makes them unique, and this is also probably true with the lighting fixtures, is they are something that has been crafted by hand in a wood that doesn't exist anymore. You don't find that old growth oak anymore. I think that vestibule could create an airlock with a new door that would help protect the old doors. And an airlock is something that Schweinfurth used in his designs. So I am really attached to those doors, and I think they should be retained. And again, that human element, somebody, actually fabricated those doors. some unknown person, somebody, some common man with these incredible skills put these together, and I think they need to be preserved and celebrated. So, let's see, I think, that's basically it. I don't want to, this meeting is going on very long, so I just wanted to make sure that those were the things I could go on, but I'm
Thank you.
gonna stop there.
All right. Do we have any, Mr. Sandberry?
Thank you. I guess going a little bit away from what everyone else was saying, instead of doing just a box as your vestibule, and looking at the space that you currently have, I wonder what it would look like if you took the cloister on the north side and mirrored it on the south side in a traditional or in a more modern material. You have an indoor outdoor interior exterior space on the north side. And what if you did that similarly on the south side? You have a gabled arched opening that leads to a pathway to the cathedral, mirroring that in some modern material on the south side as your entrance. May be interesting.
All right. Any other questions or comments? All right, hearing none, do you feel, because this is a schematic review, we're not going to take a vote, but do you feel like you have enough feedback from us to continue forward?
Yes.
Great. Awesome.
Thank
Well,
you
I think on behalf of the commission, we're excited to see this one come back.
Thank you all very much. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right. So that concludes our schematic plan review for today's agenda. Next up, any administrative reports?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just wanted to report that Mount Moriah, Second Mount Olive, and the Beachland Ballroom have all been officially designated as our newest 3 Cleveland landmarks. That brings us up to 5 designations for 2026. So off to a good start.
That's great.
We did that last.
All right. Any other business to discuss? All right, then with that, we'll adjourn today's meeting and look forward to seeing everyone on April 9th, 2026. Thank you.